Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And that's the other thing. I had a discussion with my wife yesterday because the tithing issue, right? I spoke to Paula about that, and she was explaining to me that that was for Israel. You know, that was the Jews, whatever you want to call them. It was never meant for the church. Basically, the church is supposed to give all of yourself, correct?
Well, what's the question you're asking?
Am I supposed to tithe 10% of my salary every week? I can't even pay my bills.
No, it's not a law. No, the church ages, you give from your heart what you want to. The Jews had 10% because that was the agreement. And they just like to bring that over as a marker. But, you know, if possible, I'd like to give 20, 30% to good causes that further the gospel. It isn't 10%, 9%, or 20%. It's what can you do and do it with your heart, not because it's a have to.
And that's my point. But a lot of people think, oh, you're struggling because you're not tithing. I mean, I don't talk about it like that.
In terms
Now
it just reminds me of a story my grandma used to tell me. Right, a Bible story about Jesus. And he's in the temple, and while he's in the temple, someone comes to bring their tidings, but their tidings are immense. This is a very rich guy, turns up with a lot of stuff, a lot of gold, a lot of contribution, gives a lot to the church. Jesus watches, and then behind him, in the line, so to speak, is an old beggar woman. And she gives a couple of coins, and he goes up to her and praises her beyond comprehension, just gives her so much praise he can't believe how generous she's been. And the guy who's just given considerably more. It's like, what the hell's going on? Why aren't you praising me? I've given a lot more. And he says, well, by comparison, what she has given is essentially all she's got. She's given all she's got to the church. Have you given all you've got to the church? No, you haven't. By comparison, she's given a lot more. So it's what you can.
Excellent point.
Now, these are charlatans who say that your health and wealth and prosperity is tied to that. And it's Joel Osteen grabbing money from everybody.
But Jesus was showing them that guy was giving out of his abundance. It was nothing to him. That lady gave everything that she had.
The point being that if you have your local church and they are in desperate need of a new roof, which is something quite commonly that occurs in this country, maybe not so much, but back when I was a kid, people were always stealing the lead from the church's roofs. They always had to replace it because thieves would nick it and then they'd have to do a fundraiser. Well, at that point, when literally they got water pouring into the building, you're like, right, we've got to come together as a community. And if you've got very little to give, but you give something, in spite of you still having bills to need covering, then that's the equivalent of the woman giving up her last couple of coins. That's the equivalent. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you're just saying, the church says I've got to give them 10%, it's like, why is this the mafia? What's going on? You know what I mean?
That's exactly how I feel. What is this, the mafia? What am I, a crew? I got to kick back to the boss?
There is no scripture in the New Testament for Christians to give 10% or any percent. It's a gift of your heart. from your heart. So that way God blesses you, because like the old woman, you gave from what you had. And like that story Nathan's family shared with him, she had nothing. And so percentage wise, she gave everything up, whereas that guy had a lot still. So just got to watch out for the charlatans in the church who misread the Bible.
But in the interest of balance,
So
tight
what
sod,
does it say
you
about
should be giving him
tithing?
15.
Ooh, sorry, Nathan.
That's all right. It's just a joke. It was good that it was almost rumpus a little bit. No worries.
I missed it.
It's not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't say
What does it say about tithing? Because my very Christian, potentially new girlfriend is heavily into tithing for sure, because she believes it always comes back. And from the story she told me, it has. I'm trying to figure out why she would be doing that.
Well, because that's what's taught. Okay, and then you just got to go to the original language and see what context it's talking. So for the Christian, there is no set rule, 10%. That was between the Jews and the agreement God had with the Jews. So now they want to transpose that over. Hey, if this is what he did with the children of Israel, why don't we do it? All right, no. Yeah, you could, but what if you can give 15? What if you can give 20%? Then do that. So there is no set limit, and you're not doing it to get things.
Yeah, and it does also say that doesn't have to be actual money. So
yeah, well, you can tithe with your time. You can go there and clean the bathrooms. You can do all kinds of things in the service of God with a proper heart. It's not. It's this modern day health, wealth, prosperity. Background noise.
Neil,
Sorry.
while we're discussing you with
thank
sympathy, can you
God
at
it
least
wasn't me.
read?
I helped you out, Eli. I did that deliberately.
That was great, Eli.
Hey, I literally didn't even hit the button. I had my finger close to it because I wanted to say something.
I suggest
And
you
then I
spend the
looked
next
up at
5 minutes
traffic.
justifying the interruption with more interruption.
I was just making a point how the thing picked up I wasn't even on it and it went off mute.
Okay?
Oh man.
Okay, speaking of tidings and generosity, have you guys been watching Flatside stream?
I caught some of it. I've had a busy weekend. What's going
Some of
on
it.
there?
How much of it?
Heard about it.
Just the title, and then just scan through a little bit, but not much to get it all.
Any impressions of the quality of the stream?
I'm not in the frame of mind to answer that. I was busy.
Okay, his stream's garbage. It sounds awful. You can't hear it. It's unlistenable. So therefore, he's in a catch-22. I contacted him and said, you need help with sound. He explained the equipment it's garbage. He's not got good enough equipment to do what he wants to do. So he's like, well, I've started a Patreon. I've got a couple of Patreons. $5 is $5. I'm like, yeah, I can relate. I was there. It takes a while. However, in the meantime, no one's going to come and support you when they don't want to watch you, because I don't want to watch you. I've tuned in twice and gone, ugh, and then tuned straight back out again because I don't want to listen to that. So what I suggested he did was go and start a GoFundMe, but he can't. In South Africa, for whatever reason, he can't run a GoFundMe. But I can. I can do it as a beneficiary or whatever they call it in GoFundMe. I've never done it before, but I'm sure it'd be easy enough to do on his behalf. Unless there's some rule I'm circumventing that I shouldn't be. I'll have to look into it. Either way, there's plenty of different ways beyond GoFundMe, if that doesn't get used, to raise maybe £500, maybe $600, so he can strap together a half-decent second-hand PC. Now, within, 3 minutes, I managed to do that, just with Part Picker and eBay and whatever, here in the UK. Just to give him an example, I took 6 or 7 screenshots, CPU, RAM, motherboard, case, power supply, and a hard drive, sent them to him with the prices next to it and said, look, this in my country would come to about £550, and it would be an exceptionally good streaming PC with upgradability if it wasn't in 5 years. Anyway, he hasn't got £500, he hasn't got £2 to rub together by the sounds of things, because he can't run a GoFundMe and he hasn't got an audience to appeal to with crap audio that I'm going to be retuning in. And if he does, they won't be able to hear him asking for money. So it might be something that I run with him. I haven't actually cleared this with him, But preemptively, when these things happen, they tend to go, oh yeah, I'll definitely be appreciative of you helping me out and raising a bit of money so I can put together a decent streaming PC. And when it comes to someone like Flatsoid, who's really good, I want him to be able to have that capability. So I don't see really reason why not to put the extra effort in. So in things like that, Neil, let's put it this way. I haven't got 2 pence to rub together, and in one way I think, begrudgingly, if I run a campaign for him, it means I've got to leave it at a certain amount of time if something goes wrong for me. Do you know what I mean? It eliminates the possibility of me running one if I needed to immediately after. Now, that's not a massive setback, because I don't need anything right this second. That often changes. But by the same token, it's like, okay, it is to my detriment to in time and potential earnings and various other things to help someone out in that regard. But I've done it how many times? Over and over again is the answer. Because that's my way of putting back. I don't have money to give Flatsoid, or Arwin, or anybody else for that matter. I barely sustain myself. Now, this isn't me begging for money. It's me saying that in a similar position to you, I can pay it forward by other means, yeah, to Flatsoid in this regard. And hopefully that will mean that he progresses in terms of what he wants to do as a result of a bit of help from someone like me who can do that easily, and hopefully to very limited detriment to myself. So that's something that I try and use as a comparison when you're saying, well, what should I give to the church? What do they need? Do they need something, Neil? You gone?
No, they don't need anything. They're a well-to-do church.
Okay. Well, it's a two-way street with the church. You gotta remember, if you're in dire need, you can approach them. I'm giving you 10% for however long. Now I'm screwed for this, that, and the other reason my car's buggered. I need money. You've got some and I haven't. Can I have some? And if they tell you to sling your hook, maybe find a new church.
Back to Flatsoid for a second. If he would just not play that hard music, then we can hear him. That part I do recall.
All of that he can work on.
No, his sound is awful. Nathan's right.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it makes it more awful when you got all that banging music.
Sure. But when he hasn't got the banging music, you can't hear him because it sounds so awful. I don't know if it's limited bandwidth or, based on what he's told me, it's limited. It's limitations of his hardware, and that's easily resolved with money, which I don't have. Time, I don't have either, but I can give up some of my time to help him gain some money from other people who are generous and have got more, hopefully, money than time, therefore can potentially spare some of their money. But they don't have the time to run around sorting him out PC components and saying this is what you can buy in South Africa secondhand, and this is the right MOBO, and this is the GPU that will allow you to encode on it, and blah, 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 blah. People haven't got the time to do that, but they might be working a good stint of their day, so they've got enough money to be able to support him in his endeavour to go and achieve better streaming quality. So it's, it all goes around and comes around.
Can I tell you a funny story what happened to me this weekend? It's real quick, like 30 seconds. So the AC in my house went out for the whole weekend. The car overheated, and my cable's been out since Friday. So they come yesterday to fix both things. AC got fixed, and just then the cable guy came in and fixed it. My car's another story. Within 30 seconds of them fixing everything, we had a power outage, and everything went out till like midnight.
Let me
Can
get
you
it straight.
believe that?
You have air conditioning and cable.
Boy, is that a prosperity?
Yeah, we don't have that here. I can't afford cable, or I certainly can't afford air conditioning.
Well, it comes with the unit. I mean, we rent a place and it has central air.
Okay, Mr. Posh, with your rental unit that comes with aircon, okay.
No. It's affordable income housing. It's for those that can't afford a house, but it's like sort of like I pay $800 a month, but I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, it's the equivalent of what we have here called council housing.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Good to have you.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hello in Discord, by the way. Have we had a hello from anybody in Discord? Don't think there's anybody in there muted.
Hello.
Is that Dank? Thanks, Dank.
Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for saying hello. I just need to check that the line all works.
Yeah, Yeah, it's working, Nathan. You want me to talk anymore, or are you good?
You're a bit quiet, but it's fine. Yeah, everything's working great. Thank you.
Yep.
Who just joined? Was it Neil rejoining?
Yes, that was me.
Okie dokie, Neil. Good to know.
So how was
Yeah.
the birthday?
Yeah, it's very good. Lots of kiddies turned up to the trampolining. That's what you want.
Any helium balloons?
Helium balloons. We've got one massive one. My wife she's got a balloon woman that she uses each time they have a birthday or there's Christmas or something. We end up with a 6-foot balloon that's full of helium. So yes, right in front of me now, an enormous, great big 6.
Which, by the way, in chat when you're doing your shows, there's this guy who came in first as Nathan Oakley, and now I think he's changed his name to Neil Die.
Okay.
These guys are extreme anti-flat earthers.
Yes,
Oh, have some sympathy. They're in pain.
Yeah, they are in pain. That's right. Concerned with us to the point where they want to be us.
Well,
I
they're
don't get it.
heretics.
It's sad, really.
And they're
but
stuck with
fine.
us.
Oh, also, Divergent Droid, what amazing moderator. So he's there all the time. He's always shouting out the show and just promoting it and stuff. I mean, I've never seen anybody be so proactive, but just because they've got a spanner. But fantastic, marvellous guy. Shout out to you, Divergent Droid. But he got in touch with me and says, look, this guy in the chat is basically all but admitted to spamming you with fake likes. And then he's posted me the full stream of chat from a guy that's basically saying, watch the likes go up. Want to see more? Etc, etc. You're like, oh, so some guy out there is basically buying fake likes and sticking them on my show. Why? I don't know. Makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever why some idiot would want to spend their money on fake like spamming my show. But they are. That's what they're doing, and they're admitting to it while they're doing it because they've got so brazen about it that they've decided, oh, I'm not getting enough reaction. Well, hopefully this is a satisfactory reaction. You idiot who wants to spend money on that.
When they don't have any debate points to talk about, I guess they have to do something.
But why like spam? I don't get it. It's just the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
It's obvious to blame you for it later and not him, but he got caught.
Is that it? So, like spam me, spending their hard-earned money, so they can say, look, he's buying likes. When they know they're the ones doing it. It's absolutely pathetic.
No, it's definitely a guy that has money, because nobody that works hard for a living is going to do that. So he needs to spend his money.
How frivolous.
I'm sure Nathan would rather him do it in the super chat.
Oh yeah, but they don't want to support me. You know, I think it's more that the only thing that I could logically think of, John, that would be a reason behind it is to say, look, I'm spending money, but it's on something so pointless. You're not getting it. It's just going on something stupid. And that's the only logic I could think of.
John, you sound great, by the way.
Yes, you do. You do sound very super crisp.
My car got stolen and I almost lost my job over it before I started, but
Your car got stolen? No way.
Right out of my driveway.
Why can't somebody steal my car?
Millennium burglary. They broke in and got the keys then?
I was working on I was doing a tune-up on it, and I left the keys in the floorboard of the other vehicle. But it was parked in front, or it was parked behind that vehicle. And they just shopped around and looked real good and found them and drove off with it.
Heartbreaking. What kind of car was it?
99 BMW, 825i.
825i. Oh, nice. Is that the one that looks like a shark?
No, it's a sedan.
Oh, okay. A big sedan.
Yeah, it's bigger than the little 325i's.
Did you say 825?
528. I'm sorry. I'm getting it backwards.
528. Okay, now I know what it is. It's a straight 6. 5 Series from 99. Boxy looking thing. But it's a nice car. Very nice car. Heartbreaking. Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't want to see it go. So you say you nearly lost your job over that? Because presumably you couldn't get there.
Well, I seen it leaving my driveway, running through the neighborhood in my underwear trying to catch it.
Are you serious? You were running after the guy?
Yep, barefoot in my underwear. If I'd have caught him, I'd have killed him.
Well, that's why God didn't allow you to catch him.
Whatever. Don't don't do that. The guy's probably reeling from the loss of his sentimentally very valuable car.
Well, it was more that my orientation started Monday, and I missed it because of that.
Oh no.
You know, I've been gone from that job for almost a year and a half.
That's heartbreaking. Presumably they understood when you showed them police reports and stuff today. Or maybe not.
Yeah, I just start Monday now.
This
Move
coming
everything
Monday.
back a week.
Ah, you just set back a week. Good. So no harm, no foul. You've lost a week.
Nathan, I've got a couple of slides before the show starts if you want to take time for them. Master
Okay.
B.
Yeah, got it. Got the first one up.
So, how many rational horizons do you see here?
Rational. 1.
2.
2. Oh yes.
See, it says,
yes, there are. So there's 1. Okay, there's 2.
well,
What?
that could be 3, 4, 5, anywhere. Someone's on top of the circle with a sensible horizon. The rational must follow with a 90 degree. You with me?
No, but yes.
All right. Well, let's go to the next slide and then we'll come back to this slide.
Okay.
Do you see the center of the earth there?
Yep.
All right. You see the angle could be achieved as long as you have a baseline that's straight. And then they got the arc of the protractor in this case where they say the person is taking the elevation angle from, but really you have to say you're at the center of the earth where you can have this flat baseline and the zenith coming down to that point, which they don't have a line to it, but if you did that, you'd have a 90 and then you minus your altitude from it. And then the difference would be your co-altitude. Now let's go back to the other slide, the first one. So there's a guy right on top, sensible horizon. He's got to do his tangent plane. He's got to bring his eyeball down to the ocean surface. And he's got to match that rational horizon directly under him, 4,000 miles away, basically. And he's got to say, I'm getting my angle from here, but it's really from the center. Forget that bottom half. Now, if you go to the other guy, he's on this side of this presupposed globe, and his zenith goes to the center. And so that rational horizon has to follow in suit because he's got to achieve a 90 if he's going to take the measurement from the center. They're trying to get this 90 at the top. And that's why that one slide with the boat in the right angle triangle, elevation angle measurement is wobbling, teeter-tottering on the globe, you know, the one I'm referring to?
Yeah, with the giant triangle teeter-tottering.
Yeah, so just imagine that here on top. That's the same problem they got. so let's assume, just for argument's sake, that the guy on the left is a star, and the guy on top is the actual observer. He needs a tangent plane, but that star also needs a tangent plane. What happens when those two tangent planes cross? Does that look like a real measurement? No, they cross each other in midair in space. You can only have one rational horizon for any elevation angle measurement. And you can't have two, and you're going to have two because you got the GP of the star as well as the GP of the observer. Do you see a problem here? Did I lose you? Hello?
I think he stepped away while you were doing this, Tim.
Oh, okay. I'm glad somebody's talking. Do you see it?
I just stepped back. I'm sorry, sir. Hold on a second.
Sorry.
I'll go look.
Yeah, let me know when you're there.
Sorry, where am I supposed to be?
No, it's John was going to go look at the slide. You had stepped away for a minute. No, I'm just saying that rational horizon has to follow every zenith position of anything. Meaning, if you're the guy on top, that's your zenith goes to it. But the guy on the left, his zenith goes to it. But the rational horizon has to also adjust for him. So if you just say that guy on the left is really the zenith of a star that you're sighting, being the guy on the right, they both have to go to the center of the earth. Now, you can't get an angle from the way this is drawn unless the angle is measured from the center of the earth. So put your eyeball right at the center of the earth on that dot where everything meets. Now you can have your zenith and an angle to the star or sun, in this case, this other guy, and you have a flat baseline. It's all done on a flat plane. They just drew a circle around it and put all these stupid sensible horizons up there.
We only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is the geometric horizon. And it's not even marked on this first diagram.
Well, you got Bobby S in chat still saying that he's got footage of Earth curve, 55,000 feet in the air. He doesn't understand that the horizon is not Earth curve.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the show, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Chocolate Saying, Refracted Curvature, Eli, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Not really. I got an eyelash in my eye right in the middle of that intro.
The horizon is not Earth
Better out
curve.
this out quick. I'm going to start twitching badly. Other than that, great day. Yeah, really good start. Good to have you all in Discord.
You got Tourette's all of a sudden? What's going
I
on?
was twitching away. I was like, I can control this. I can keep this. I can hold
Hello,
it till the end of the intro. I've got it out now. It's okay.
Hi, Erwin.
What's going on?
Hey, Owen. Good to have you. Yeah, eyelash-related problems. Nothing serious.
Oh, okay.
Good show
He
today,
took care
Owen.
of.
Managed to tune in today.
Yeah, welcome back.
I have been tuning in. I just haven't been saying hello. So believe it or not, I have been tuning into your show. I just haven't been in the live chat. So if I've been out on my...
No, I saw you. I saw you pop up. I take note of that. Oh, but I meant like in relation to yesterday. Welcome back.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was my daughter's birthday. So happy birthday, Eleanor, for yesterday.
Hope it was a fun day.
Yeah, kids' parties and seeing family is always nice. No complaints, nice and relaxed. It's essentially a day off for me. So I'm not complaining. Not that I don't like what I do. I love what I do. Really happy to be here. Joyful as ever. Refreshed as opposed to not happy to be here, which I am. Should we do a bit of housekeeping?
Let's do it.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth? At any altitude, we're talking about Earth curve as the horizon.
Well, if the horizon bends, right, at 200,000 miles up, it still doesn't mean it's Earth curve now, because it's not Earth curve from 1 foot, right?
The horizon in the heliocentric model is supposed to be Earth curve at any distance always. It's the only reason things disappear bottom up according to their mathematics. Geometric limitation called Earth curve. That's their horizon. Your question
But
was about
horizon,
bending, and I've kind of subverted it, so maybe I'm missing something, John.
well, the horizon bending is not synonymous with Earth curve, but they've made it synonymous.
Why isn't it synonymous? I'm still not following.
Well, it could just be how your eye sees, you know,
Oh, well,
the
I
ground
see.
below you.
What you're saying is the heliocentric model has made the horizon into people's pre-assumption that it's Earth curve. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so like you could get up high enough that, you know, maybe it's not directly in your vision and it seems to be bending. But if it's not Earth curve from 1 foot off the ground, it's not Earth curve from a million miles away either.
Right. It makes no difference where you're viewing the horizon from, or how you're viewing the horizon, or your perception of the horizon bending. The horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Good morning, Adam. It's actually afternoon here, but...
Good afternoon, guys. Hope you had a nice day yesterday, Nathan.
It was lovely. Trampolining with sprogs. 10 of them. Axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Discord? Anybody at all? Don't be shy. This is the claim that we spin. Earth is claimed to have an axial rotation value. 15 degrees an hour is the rotation value that we're supposed to be under. Has nobody got any evidence to claim this is true? Brian, can you pop yourself on local mute? I've unmuted you.
No.
Not that, Brian. Yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
They say we have Earth curve, we never see it. They say Earth spins, we never feel it. It's just nonsense. It's back to grade school when we all said to the teacher, no, I don't think how could that be true? And then they shut us down with their indoctrination.
Did someone want to add something from Discord? Did I Did I hear something? Don't be shy.
The indoctrination is strong with this one.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
I sent a little video in Master B. Did anybody watch it?
Yes, I did, and it was annoying.
It was an advert that twisted true Christian values with scripture quoted and cited alongside heliocentric rhetoric. It was really in your face. It did make me chuckle. I knew it would annoy you guys, but I thought it'd be I shouldn't really confess to that, should I? I didn't send it to annoy you. I didn't send it intentionally to annoy you, just so that's clear.
No, it annoyed me when I first saw it last week, and I sent it to a few of my flat earth friends and said, see, this is what we're fighting, scientism in the church. So I've seen it already.
But they're directly intertwined, which is why I thought it would make an interesting discussion point. Because to me, there's no shock. But as a Christian that doesn't share the Catholic, Christian, Roman Catholic Church values, it's a very interesting talking point. Let's just shout out Jardu, then we'll get into it, right? The sun is exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer.
Spot on. That's mathematically correct.
What? I was about to say, what the hell are you talking about? Glad maths expert Adam's
here. It's double half the distance.
Hold on, I'll just shout him thanks. Hold on. Jardu, I had no idea what that meant, and I wouldn't have understood it. Glad Adam's here. Thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, it's like 1 divided by 2 times 2 is 1, isn't it? That's what he's done there. So. Not wrong. It's just scalar.
Is this a clever maths joke that I don't understand because I'm clearly mathematically illiterate?
No, the sun is exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer.
Does anybody else follow this? Is it just
that's 3 Arwinian units.
Yeah. The double.
It's like one of those. It's like one of those word things. The seashore, this and that, until you get confused. It's like looking at it from a different scalar, I think is what Adam's saying.
Double and half being the same if you... Okay. I kind of
scale,
follow.
Isn't it? There's no units there. You could be anything. That's why I said it's exactly 3 Arwinian units, which is double the distance from the observer halfway to the sun. So that would mean that the observers,
But it would also mean it has a physical distance, would it not?
In the middle.
Does that not give it an assignable, ascribable distance?
Double the distance halfway to it. That's cute.
Yeah, but either way, that still infers that it's got an ascribable distance, doesn't it?
No, it's just double. Well, yes, because it's double half of it.
Yeah.
Whatever
but
that distance is.
Well, that's wrong.
It's not an actual value, though. It's not working in units.
It doesn't matter.
It's working in...
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the units you ascribe arbitrarily to it. If you gave it me in feet and put those into his scale, it still, without scale, ascribes the notion of an ascribable distance, doesn't it?
It's called physicality assumption bias. Yeah.
Right.
Well, hold on. It's got an apparent nature to the equation he gave.
Where's that? Hold on. The sun is exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer.
When it put in the observer.
I'll get lost, Jardu. He says, how long's a piece of string, Nathan? Yeah. No, you're missing the nuance of my criticism, aren't you, Jardu? I'm saying you're ascribing something physically to it in terms of an acquirable distance, regardless of your clever use of words, which at first I didn't understand, now I do. But I'm more concerned with the actual capability of ascribing a distance to it. With scaling values, you're saying you are. Adam initially agreed with me. I don't know if he still does.
I think I'm with you now. I've changed. It's not good anymore because it is, like I said, it's physicality assumption bias now. So it is assuming that there is a distance to it, which is exactly what the heliocentric model does with scaling, doesn't it? Again, it's
there's a distance.
No, just while, because he's paid for it. Not that I'm going to deny him what he got. You know, I am too slow when it comes to maths. So, you know, you did immediately catch me out with something that I didn't understand. I'm not going to deny it that you did catch me out. You did. You know, I didn't get it. I'm not going to lie. But once I did, which took a while, I'm not going to lie, I now I'm looking at the physical assumption bias. That was the term I was searching for. Arwin's not. Is he here? Well, I don't know why he hasn't piped up on
I've
this.
said it twice to try and trigger him, but
yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't
obviously
said
not
something.
here.
And Arwinian units. I thought that would get him up. I just assumed he wasn't here as he didn't say anything.
Well, let me attack that then.
Go ahead.
If we assume that if physical is outside of the mind, are you saying the sun exists within the mind?
He's not. He hasn't given enough information to deny a physical assumption bias in his super chat. But what you're now saying is, if we take that and expand it into perception or physicality,
in general, for anyone who doesn't think that there isn't like a sun there somewhere, like there is no distance, like just because we don't know it, that's crazy. Is that what you're saying, John? Because that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, what I'm saying is to say it's a physicality assumption bias, right? Is to assume that the way physical works is if it is existing outside the mind, then it's physical. Is the sun existing outside the mind?
Yes.
Then it's not a physical assumption bias.
Why is it not a physical assumption bias if by shared experience only could you define it as only experienced in the mind? I don't follow how that does make it in a physical assumption bias. I'm now not following again.
What?
No, it doesn't.
No.
Well,
hold on, let John go. Hold on, Adam.
Yeah.
I defined physical. I said existing outside the mind. If anyone else would like to define physical, we can discuss it. But first, we need to define what physical means to you.
Hold on. Just existing outside of the mind, other people's thoughts exist in their mind, but outside of my mind. But that doesn't mean if I describe them exclusive of my own experience, that makes that physical because I've described it outside of my experience in my mind.
The mind, Nathan, not my mind. The mind. Existing outside the mind.
What's the mind?
I was going to say that seems a bit unreasonable. How can you coalesce all of these? The mind can only be experienced by me. Or who's it, Descartes? I think, therefore I am. Well, that doesn't include you. No offence.
It's not so much.
Excuse me.
The physical assumption of it. It's apparent position that you're ascribing the physicality assumption bias to.
That's a much better way to put it.
It's not physical. You're just saying the location.
Go on, Adam. Let me finish. That's exactly what I meant, Adam. Yes, please repeat that.
So it's not to say that its location is apparent. That's not to say it doesn't have one. It doesn't have a distance to. But the physicality assumption is that where we see it and the size we see it relates to its physicality and location.
Right. Now, let's say that I'm looking at it at a specific position, you're looking at it at a specific position, and we're in different positions. The fact that he added observer into his equation means it's an apparent equation as a scalar. So the position could be physical. It doesn't mean the sun's there.
Hold on, did you introduce a third party into that just then, John? Because if you did, that didn't tie in with his super chat. Shout out to Jad though again, great talking point, super chat. Number one, if you introduce a third party to it, then his logic doesn't stack up in terms of half versus double anymore, because it doesn't work that way in literal reality.
Yes, it does.
Hold on.
Hold on. I want to hear John Arwin. Hold on, he's challenging what I'm saying. I want to hear him. Go ahead, John.
The third party is an observer, so it's going to be different for him.
That's what I just said, and you said no.
Yeah,
I get the feeling that.
Hold on, Arwin. Hold on. You'll get your chance, Arwin. I promise. Go on, John.
I didn't hear that. I was talking something else then. But yeah, for me, the sun would still be, I would see it in a position. Now, that position can be physical. It doesn't mean the sun is in that position.
The only way you can describe that position is angular. So you can't ascribe a position.
Right. The angles observed are real. Those are not part of physicality assumption bias. It's the conclusion drawn from the angular correlations and the reification into an actual position in Euclidean space that is the physicality assumption bias.
Totally agree.
Okay, I'm tired of this.
Hold on, John. The only thing I disagree with was...
I've defined physical. I have defined physical. Please define what physical means to you.
Being of substance.
Being capable of, maybe I'm defining tangible, but capable of touch. That's not necessarily physical, is it? It's tangible.
Having a real position in physical space.
Hold on, he's already met that criteria well and truly. Hold on. The only thing I disagree with so far that John said more than anything else, which Alwyn said was doublespeak, but I don't think it is, was that it doesn't preclude it, right, John, from being physical, which I would agree with. We don't know either way. So John's right, but you said that was doublespeak, so maybe I should address this to Alwyn, because you said that was doublespeak. It doesn't mean it isn't physical. We don't know.
To draw a conclusion only on angular correlations.
Hold on, Eli, you're next. Go ahead, Arwin.
It's just that the drawing of conclusion based only on angular correlations into a physical object in specific location in space, that's just all assumption. That's part of the physicality assumption.
Again, I totally agree. Based on what we have, we haven't got enough to say it is. So no, it's totally deficient in that regard. Once you can, I'd just be repeating what you said in terms of the angles are real. You can take an angle, that's what you've got. You can write it down. It is what it is to that body in the sky if we're talking about the sun. But the assumption beyond that, you haven't got enough to base a physical assertion on of the sun being physical. But you can't rule it out either. You can't say it isn't, and that's kind of what John said when you claimed doublespeak. But he said no. Hold on, is that Eli? Go on, Eli. You're going to rumpus me regardless of whether I want you to or not. Go on.
Yeah. No. When you said, damn, it was something you just said, and I would have added on to that. I can't remember.
My last point was
Can you repeat the last bit of what you said?
Well, I was just saying that John's last statement, which Arwin claimed was doublespeak, was that you can't rule it out as physical. You can't say it isn't. And Arwin was saying, well, no, but you can't draw the conclusion that it is physical with the amount of information you have purely based on measuring angles to it from two different locations. Well, number one, you'd probably get different results if you tried to even ascribe a height to it. You might by chance stumble on the same maths and end up at the same height, but more likely than not, you'll end up with a different height. So how can you in any way use that information to extrapolate out a physical distance and therefore claim it's physical at all? You can't. That's Arwin's point. But John said that you couldn't not say it was physical. You can't rule it out.
I'd agree with that.
Because my problem with what you said is we can't know if it is physical. I would end that with physically there. Because that seems more appropriate than to say that something that we experience, we don't know if it's like an actual thing or not. Like, it's a thing. We just don't know where it is, what it is. It could be a glare, it could be a reflection, it could be something totally different.
Well, with that sentiment in mind, another shout out to Jardo. Let's just bring up his super chat on screen so you can see it in the audience. He says, as he tries to bring the chat up at the same time, my 1/1/1 presupposition cannot be disputed in any of the literal, physical, or non-physical, full stop. It is what it is. Beautifully said, Jardo. You're on fine form. Thanks for the super chat. Any more on the sun?
Yeah, just to back it.
It's over there.
Both. Well, the statement from Arwen and what we use is it's a physicality assumption bias. It's not to say it's not physical. It's just to say whenever we view this, we apply a physicality bias, even though it's not provable or disprovable. We should consider both, but in most cases, we always assume physicality bias.
Correct.
Well, I would like to add on just one thing, just real quick. Where in his equation he gave did he give physical?
I'll just read it again. You can figure this out for yourselves.
Exactly.
You can figure it out for yourselves. I'll read it again. The sun is exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer.
So That means
the
there is
word
a distance.
exactly.
No, the word distance.
No, neither one of them necessarily ascribe physicality because he uses
Wait.
the word observer.
Hold on, Eli. Just let him get to the
Okay,
end.
so let's establish. Okay.
Go on, John.
None of those words necessarily mean it's physical. He's just saying the distance to it from this observer, right, to the position where it appears is this equation. But the equation in itself is just a scalar. It doesn't mean it's there.
It is scalar, but in stating that there is a distance, even as undefined, but that half of that distance, is if you double it, it's equal to the same thing. It's implying there is an actual distance. So even though the distance is unknown, there is an actual distance that applies to in the mechanics there.
It seems to me that you all are ascribing that and then applying it to the equation, but
No, that's why I'm.
No, that's the implication of his scaling. That's the implication that it's got a physical distance ascribable because of his scaling that he's saying he can measure. That's the implication, not our extrapolation.
Well, see, the thing is to that observer, that's what distance it appears to be to him. And it doesn't matter which observer looks at it, that's going to be the equation that works for them. But that doesn't mean that equation, it's just a language trick.
There's only one observer in the equation. The sun is exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer. So the sun is exactly double the distance from the observer to the sun as it is from half the distance from the observer to the sun.
Gardo asks, does that mean I get 3 Bitcoin? Lol. No, it doesn't.
No, he owes us 3 after this.
It's only worth about a fiver now anyway.
Yeah, but distance is a concept, right? That's something.
No.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Measurement.
No, it's not.
Yeah, the concept of distance. Yeah.
No, it's
I mean, you can
not.
apply
Like,
it.
that's
You
your-
have to
your-
apply it in units. You have to apply
Okay,
it
but
in units.
no, something physically has the distance when you measure it. What are you talking about?
When you apply units, right?
No, when you figure out when you figure out how exactly you're gonna like what unit of measure you're gonna use to determine what the distance is between you and a thing. You know it's a distance. You're just trying to figure out, okay, what language am I going to use to describe this distance? There is a distance.
What? To the sun?
There is no, Aaron, no.
You're right, Eli.
It's
There is a
space
distance.
conceptual.
It's what conceptualization we're going to describe that distance in.
Is space a conceptualization?
Hold on, I think
What
I
does
follow
that
what
have
John's
to-
trying to say
that's
here.
a
Hold on. Let me
non-sequitur.
just see if I'm picking up what
fake
John's putting
medium.
down. What I think John's trying to put down is that until the point that we exercise his clever linguistics, there is no reification and there is no mathematics and there is no measurement. Therefore, there's no physical assumption bias. It's only upon us discussing it and employing his scalar do we reify it, and therefore we put the physical assumption bias into it. I think that's what John's putting down. If I'm wrong, just tell me.
Well, as soon as somebody
just the
makes a
language.
That would
claim
be
about
John.
an actual
That would
position,
be John. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just a language trick. It's a trick of language, and until we ascribe those meanings to it, it doesn't mean that.
well, since I literally brought up the word physicality assumption bias originally, I'd like to make sure that the details of it are always cleared up, because it is a process in the mind, right? It's not as soon as your mind just says, look, because the angles line up over the terrain somehow visually, I am just going to draw the conclusion and reify that it is a position. Now, it doesn't have to spell that all out. They just say, oh, look, the angle lines up, so it is there, right?
Yeah,
as soon as they do that, physicality assumption bias has gotten the better of them, and they probably don't even realize it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Other than get the better of them, I think what John's trying to say is this magic trick, which I'm sure now that he's mentioned it, I'll see it popping up all over the place, is a sort of, what's the term? Where you leave as the magic trick user, the one who's actually using this linguistic magic trick, no real guilt once the person falls for the trick. It's up to the person that's having the trick foisted upon them to actually take the steps of reification, which in some ways you could say absolves the person who's instilled the magic trick of any guilt. Oh, well, I didn't tell you to reify this into a physical distance. You did that of your own volition. I am not guilty of that. Now that the penny's dropped, I am picking up what you're putting down, am I not, John?
I need clarity then, John. So, with what Nathan's just said, it's not a physical distance. So what sort of distance is it? Is there a way in which you can write distance to give it a neutrality of non-implication? Or does it just by its own volition have that inherent meaning?
You're focused too much on the question. Let me just answer for John. I'm sorry, I'm rumpusing John when your question was to him, Adam. No, there's a subtle nuance. Forget about the equation. What I think John's trying to say is that until we do something here, Adam, right? The question that was put out in the super chat by Jardu doesn't involve Jardu doing anything in terms of ascribing or acquiring a physical distance to anything ever. We have to take those steps, don't we? Therefore, we have to reify it and then argue that he's made us reify it. Oh, what a bastard. He's talking about ascribable distances is how I started this off. Now, maybe he didn't intend to do this, but intentionally or unintentionally, he's highlighted a certain part of the magic trick when it comes to the deception of heliocentrism, which is it relies on the victim, let's say us in this example, to do the step of reification for themselves. In this case, physical assumption bias of a distance to the sun. Now, this links back to the directly and overtly ascribing distances when quoting Jesus and the Bible in the advert I posted to the guys in the Master B chat, just for a discussion point. But in this instance, it's very different. It relies upon you taking the step yourself to make the reification into a reality that you experience in your mind's eye. But the person who's foisted that upon you has no guilt. Yeah? So Jardu hasn't made you do that. Now you're going through the steps of what you are doing in terms of how it's unfair that he's made you do it to reify it, to give it a physical distance. He hasn't made you do that. Maybe I'm reading too much into what John said, but John, can you just, if I'm wrong or off or not summarising your point correctly, hopefully we'll get a response from John.
That's pretty close to what I was thinking, yeah. Like, the concept. There's a concept of distance, and then there's when you apply distance in reality. There's our conception of things, and then there's their physical nature.
No.
Well, it's a trick that he's playing with the conception of something and using the scalar with it.
I'll see it as a claim on his part. Just a solid claim to me.
I do too. I mean, you can't. How you gonna say? Use words like the, is, exactly, distance, and say not me, you doing it? Like I don't.
All right. Okay. How about
get
this?
it?
The sun.
It's a solid claim to me on their behalf. It's not. I'm not ascribing distance. He's stating there is a distance, right? It's not stating what it is, but he's stating it's physical. Yeah, that's tongue in cheek the way he describes the distance afterwards. Yeah, but he's still making a claim that the sun is a particular distance.
Right.
Yeah.
So he technically sneaked in a presupposition.
Yeah, it's his first sentence. The sun is exactly double the distance. So it's making a statement, yeah, of a claim to me there. There is no foisting this for me to interpret. What I've got to interpret is, could I apply the scalar part of the sentence, which is, as it is, half the distance from the observer? Am I prepared to reify that into something to try and make this actually have any real meaning, some inference to it? But the first part of the sentence is a claim to me. It's not anything I need to interpret.
Well, hold on, because we use words like the distance, is what Elijah said. I'll get to you, Adam. But the and distance, okay, how is that any different than saying the sun? Like, well, is the sun physical now? Or
No.
Distance
No.
already invokes
That's
physicality.
The distance from me to Arwen is exactly half of the distance from me to half of the way to Arwen or to Nathan. It's describing a distance. It's describing something physical, unless, and the way out of it is, as you did, to claim that distance is conceptual. That's the only way forward. But that, to me, a little bit naughty, because
Yeah.
in any
is.
generic understanding, when we're describing distance, we are describing physicality between two physical things.
Right,
Until
so
the
he
moment
tricked-
that you
he
apply a
tricked
system.
invoked-
One
Sorry,
at a
can I
time.
say
Hold
Until the
on.
moment
Just
you
go ahead, John. Can everyone else mute just while John's talking? Thanks.
until the moment you apply a physical a unit to that distance, you've not done anything. You're talking about a conceptual idea of distance. You're not applied it real world.
No, as soon as you invoke the word distance, you invoke position. Doesn't matter, you are not adding a numerical value to it.
Well, a line, okay? A line has distance, does it not?
Yeah, a physical line. Yeah.
Well, a line is just a geometric
You said,
concept.
okay, a line's a geometric concept, distance isn't.
A line's a physical thing.
It could be.
We'll draw it on a piece of paper, it is.
Right.
So the distance of a line in mathematics. Hold on. The distance of a line in mathematics, not drawn on a sheet of paper.
No, not in mathematics. Then it's not real. It's in mathematics.
Well, as far as I can tell, his claim has never stepped outside the realm of mathematics yet, because he's not ascribed it to anything physical. And y'all are saying
hold on. So back to the original question then. So what's the sun then? We don't know, so we can't rule it either way. You've already disclaimed that right early on, John. You can't rule it out, but you can't say it is based on what we've got so far. One of the things is ascribable distance. That's what he's asserting. Therefore, I'm going to go with my original objection, which is basically what Adam said 3 minutes ago. No, he's definitely ascribing something to something we see in our day-to-day lives with a measurement that to be made in physicality, i.e. the measurement's going to be made in physicality. But whether or not it actually gives you the distance, well, definitely not. That's not enough. Doesn't mean it hasn't got one or it's not physical either. But he has incorporated that when he talks about the sun with a physical measurement being made to it. Because it's a physical measurement he's talking about to the sun, isn't he? Half the distance versus double.
No, he's talking about it's not a physical measurement he's talking about. Where in his super chat did he say take a physical measurement to the sun?
Doesn't have to say the word physical. He just invoked it by, look, half the distance. If you double that, you have the distance. And then basically not making it involved anymore. That's a trick invocation. He invoked the distance, but not in a relevant way. So it was just a trick.
Doesn't need to trick anybody. The words in English.
Yeah, it would trick anybody. But
if you're going to take it into mathematics, then he would have had to make the statement to the obvious to go against it and say this is within mathematics. But if you read the English, then unless you're going to ascribe different meanings to the word distance, to what it means to everybody, and the sun, when you're talking about it in this sentence, the English is quite clear. There's no trickery. It's a statement of fact that the distance between me and my microphone is exactly double what it is between me and halfway to my microphone. Okay.
Well, this is one of the problems with the ambiguity of language.
It's not ambiguous. That's what I'm saying. It's very clear. To make it ambiguous, you've got to put the other words in to allow it out of just reality. This is a physical reality statement, and there's nothing in there to say mathematically it's this, or you could calculate it like this. It's just a straight statement of fact between two things: the sun and the observer, me and my microphone.
So the only other thing that's happening.
Hold on, Eli. Once you've got
Assume-
your mic open, no one else is basically allowed to talk. So go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam. I thought you. That was,
No, done,
sorry,
Rob. Off you go, mate.
I want to say something.
No, Eli.
No, Eli.
Well, yeah. I just think that this is the problem with interpretation, where there doesn't need to be. So because there's not enough information, you're going to go ahead and insert information. Like, no, the dude said distance. The dude said it is. That's it. Like, that's what he said. I'm like, okay. Like, the only problem is the needling of the words that you guys are doing, and with words
So when I
that aren't
point at the
there.
sky and say that is the sun, that's a physical claim, right?
No, until you ascribe a physical
No.
measurement that you can acquire, regardless if it has scales or values or arbitrary numbers attached to it. If you just say there's the sun, that's not saying here's the sun and here's how we get its distance. It's half the distance. Yeah, that's not what you're doing.
Look, there is a definite word trick going in on it. I ain't saying there's not, because it's mathematics. Like it's like the value of 1 divided by 1 gives you 1, right? That's all
Yeah,
it
but
is.
that's mathematically conceptual. When you're talking about a distance and then half a distance or double a distance, you're literally invoking the claim of a distance, which is in physicality invocation.
How do you think of distance? Do you think of distance as something you travel or something you conceptualize orthographically?
No, something you measure
No,
with a tape measure.
Distance is distance. Right. And if you don't want to invoke that, you have to say apparent distance. We've been training on this for like 3 years now here at the FED. So there is no distance to the sun. That's why you shouldn't invoke it.
There either is a distance or an apparent distance based on known measurements. There's nothing outside of that.
Yeah, but no distance.
Unless you're talking about the distance is the distance between me loving you and not loving you, which is a totally different thing. We're not talking
No,
about
don't do that.
Hold on,
The whole point is there is no distance
Hold on a
measurement.
second.
There's only angular measurement. That's the
You
whole
said
point.
apparent distance. How did you use that word when Adam just said that distance
the way that
physical?
Listen.
So you're saying an oxymoron?
No.
Yeah, you
John.
are.
When
Eli.
something is apparently a size or a distance, the only way to properly state that is if you have some other value.
The observer. I brought that up at
Not observer.
Yes.
Because if you have an apparent
observer
size, it's
adds the
because
apparent nature
if you
to it.
have an apparent size, if you're using the word correctly, it's because you already have something physical known.
Are you saying that or not?
No,
You said
I'm saying that when Glovers use apparent, they're making shit up because they have no distance or size or any kind of anything physical when they're talking about things in the sky. When I'm talking about apparent and I'm saying this pole is apparently this size, it's because I already know the distance, or this distance is because I know the size.
I think you're
So
getting
it's
confused
not
now.
apparent?
Apparent size is angular size. They're the same thing, right? So if you say this has an apparent size of X, well, it means that you can say how many radians it's got or whatever. You've got an angular size. That's apparent size. What you're saying is, if I look at something and say it's got an apparent, in quotes, size, you're saying, well, if I look at a sticker of a sun that's on the other end of a stadium and I'm on the ground on the football field looking up at it, you're saying, well, I can say roughly how far it is because I've got rough variables to be able to calculate it. That's a calculable roughly distance to something, but that's not its angular size or apparent distance. It's neither, because the apparent size would be its angular size. That would be if you got out something to be able to physically measure the angle that you have to it, then you can measure that. Doesn't mean you know its distance. because you don't know how big the sticker is at that particular point. But if you've got other reference points along the ground to it, you can calculate it. You can back calculate how physically big that sticker is that you're looking at. Now, when you compare that sticker of a sun at the other end of a stadium, and just discount Eli's use of the word apparent in that regard, you compare that to the sun, where you can perform the exact back calculations or calculations to it, but they don't work. You change your distance, you change your angle, technically that should change its height, and it doesn't. If you move up in altitude and measure the angle, it should change the angle, and it doesn't. So none of the things that we ascribe in physical measurement terms apply to the sun when you try and back calculate it into its height to get a physical position. They never work out correctly. Doesn't mean that you can't utilise the angles to it to back calculate where it is above with great accuracy. You can. You can get a 2-for-1 out of the angle for the baseline distance, but that's it. You can't use the hypotenuse to calculate the height, because it alters when you alter the angle. Therefore, any of the typically ascribable distance assertions, which when that super chat came in from Jardot, would be assumed by anybody who John is saying, well, that's just a verbal trick that you then have to fall for. Well, no, but in general terms, any reasonable common man would have that assumption when talking about measuring the distance to anything ever. But in the sun's case, it doesn't apply. So it's the exception to the rule where the trick comes in. So you can still call it a trick. We both get to win here, because it is, but only in respect to the sun, as opposed to anything else that you could measure ever on the ground, that you could just literally take a walk over to it with a tape measure in your hand and measure if you were right or not.
I'm not going to argue it any further, but there was the word apparent distant used, like that grouping of words. Now,
fair enough. Hopefully this has been the most value anybody's ever got out of a super chat ever.
I was going to say, that was, for such an innocuous comment, it's...
I was only making a joke, says Jardot.
Yeah.
He didn't, but I'm speaking for him.
Those are the best jokes. Those are the jokes that make us think and that test our resolve.
Apparently.
Was my conclusion okay? When we're talking about measuring anything ever, we can just take a stroll over to it and confirm our measurements were correct. When we back engineered maybe the distance based on a few of the variables that we already had, well, we can feel very smart when we verify it. How do we verify it with the sun? We don't. Not only don't we do that, it doesn't work out correctly when we do the same thing from different distances, because you get different angles and therefore different heights. No, we just don't know. It just doesn't work out with those mathematics, which means the sun, forbid me for being a little bit goosebumpy when I say this, is absolutely astonishing. It's the most amazing thing ever. Yeah, our sky is truly beautiful, not only in what it looks like, but what it does. It's amazing, and we haven't got the vaguest clue why that is. We can use aspects of it to great effect, very useful. But what it is and why it does it is beyond all of us. Now that makes me very happy.
God's handiwork.
You can call it God's handiwork if you will. I am just truly overwhelmed when I try and comprehend why it does what it does. It's amazing. And again, as a flat earther, I can look at it without any preconceived notions about what it must be in order to do that, and just go, wow, that's cool. I'd love to know why it does that. I don't. And any of the current explanations that have been offered me definitely don't explain it in any consistent way that I would accept, because they've got flaws, and they shouldn't have if they're explaining it in any reasonable way. And they're not. So therefore, what are you left with? Well, a childlike wonder about what it is. That's about it. And a reasonable comprehension of how amazing it is to do what it does. But that's it.
I think that's why they're jealous of us, actually, because we do have that childlike wonderment of the sky, and they don't. They're held to what they were told.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I do pity them in that regard. I think John also does. He's got too much empathy, if anything. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad that, you know, a lot of the potential for being inquisitive is robbed from you as a child. And certain aspects of the world, it's back to the Truman Show example when he sat in his school class asking about exploring. Well, that's a kind of childlike wonderment and inquisitive nature that's drilled out of him when she pulls down the map and tells him everything's already been found. Nothing for you to do. Oh, right, well, I'll get about my day filling this soda can machine or whatever it is that Truman does sell insurance. Yeah? Well, that's great if you need the world to keep going and people to keep buying insurance. Not so great if the person actually had or may have gone on to fulfill some desire in terms of exploration. That's robbed from us
But
all.
that's why you have guys like Jem Panda out on a day when people are trying to spread truth, screaming in pain.
It's because it's the biggest part of the deception. Most people don't want to admit that they've been fooled. And in terms of what else am I offering? Childlike wonderment? Well, that's not very good. Well, the people who are in charge think it's extremely important, to the point where they've locked down the notion of exploration of the sky, to the point where they give you constant narratives about what it is and isn't, in the form of NASA. Well, that's an expensive endeavour, so it's obviously important to give the general public some sort of idea about what the sky could be, with a rhetoric that says it is this.
And they've been doing that through all of recorded history, because every religion has always pointed up and told people what's going on. That's kind of their MO, and that's how they control the people under their rule.
But I think the Bible's the only one that says do not worship these things. I could be wrong.
These things that are telling you what they are.
Yeah, the lights in the sky.
Yeah, you're wrong, Neil.
Well, it's just like don't regard them as God, the creator themselves, because they are so mystifying, right? And that mystery leads you to think like, wow, it's so complicated, it must be God. That is something that might happen. I think it's pointing at that.
No, there's people worshiping the sun and the moon.
Yes.
Adam, what other religions say not to worship the lights in the sky? Just for my benefit.
Hold on. He disagreed with you in terms of your misapprehension that the Bible isn't suggesting that you worship something that's sky-worthy in its description. Your misapprehensions haven't been corrected yet. You've just moved on to asking which other religions affirm your misapprehension that your religion isn't pointing to the sky. It is.
Where does the Bible say that you should worship the sky? I missed that.
The Bible doesn't say. It says do not worship these things.
What's God got his feet up on, according to the Bible? What's God got his feet up on exactly?
Footstool, earth.
What's that? Oh, really?
The sky.
Oh, really? That's fascinating. Sorry, what were you asking again, John?
Are you worshiping a footstool?
I don't know. Does that sky that is a footstool got God's feet up on it?
No, the Bible says don't worship creation, but the Creator.
The guy with his feet up on the sky.
No, but I'm specifically talking about in Scripture where it says do not worship the lights in the sky. Let me find it.
The lights in the sky with God's feet on them.
Yeah, you can worship God, but not the lights.
Who's got his feet on the sky? No one's picking this up yet. No one's saying yes. I haven't heard a single affirmation yet of what I'm saying.
I did say yes.
So are we clear now that they're all pointing to the sky then in some form or another and telling you what it is and isn't? Meanwhile, just to take it away from Christianity, because this is obviously a bit of a salty wound I'm opening here. Meanwhile, what Neil said earlier about them having a very specific worship of the sun, yeah, that's what the heliocentric religion, make no mistake, it is a religion, people who are watching and don't think it is. Yeah, it is. A sun-worshipping, sun-centric religion. It's in the title. Heliocentric, sun-centric. That's what this religion that you, on a ball earth, worshipping the sun with earth tilting towards it, are doing. You're in a sun-centric religion. Shout out again to Jardo, who's given me 4 super chats so far. You all failed. I win. The sun could be anywhere, but my equation will always work, says Jardo. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Damn him.
Yeah, damn him for giving me money. I mean, thank you for the super chat. Are we going to move on from this? We're going to dwell? Any more religious discussions?
Hey everyone, hey Nathan.
Hey Brian.
I posted something in Master Beef that Kiwi posted there the other day. He just asked if I would present it or if you would present it. It's just a point about about elevation angles.
Did you want me to post the script?
Yeah, if you just present the script and maybe read it out, what he's saying in it.
Left lane, the wrong lane. Elevation angle is the angle above a point, end quote, ... Wrong, exclamation mark. Elevation angle, in quotes, is the angle between the, quote, horizontal plane and the line of sight, end quote, measured in the vertical plane, sorry, end quote. And then he's got a link. Did you want me to read the other one?
Yes, he wanted the point to be laboured that it wasn't what left lane, who was a baller, was saying.
No, it's fine. It's on screen. If people want to read the other comment, I would be late. I've just scanned around it. Yes, I'll be labouring the point. Go ahead, Brian.
No, just that's it. He just wanted to make the point that he said it was important that because left lane was saying that it's just above a point. It's kind of vague. It's specific in the definition. I mean, I'm not doing it justice because he was more passionate about this point than I was. I'm not doing it justice like him. But he was just basically pointing out where left lane was wrong to just say it's elevation above a point. I don't really know what left lane means by that. But that's why he gave the two definitions. Where
he's trying to invoke a tangent. He's trying to invoke a tangent point of the
He's trying to disassociate the relevance of the elevation angle to the surface that you're going to navigate upon. He's trying to separate the two so that you can have a point with a tangent plane that you can disassociate from the surface. But that's not what celestial navigation's about.
Yeah, that's true. That makes a bit of sense. Because I was trying to think of it logically, and all I could come up with was, well, it's elevation above, if you're talking about a celestial body, above its GP point. But that puts the GP point in the horizontal, in a horizontal line with the horizon. But that's not what he was talking about. That's not what left lane's talking about, obviously. Because that would be completely debunking the globe. You know what I mean? Within his statement. So it must be above a tangent point.
What's GP?
Begging the question.
What's GP?
Geographical position.
Oh, no, it can't be what he's talking about. They're not talking about the ground.
No, that he must be talking about it. Because I actually, would you believe, just till Adam and John said there, I never even thought of it. Yeah, he's talking about a tangent point. Because they always have to keep on avoiding reality, don't they? They're always begging the question secretly these days. They never say it. They're always secretly begging the question. So that must be what he's talking about, above a tangent point. What's a tangent point? It's a tangent to something, isn't it? What's a tangent to? You know, a geometric horizon, whatever, you know.
When you're done, can I read something, Nathan?
Did my speakers just go out?
May I read something?
No, everyone was just in shock because Neil just didn't read it, just come in and say it. He asked. Go on, then, dude.
I asked for permission first.
Go on, dude.
Okay. It says in Deuteronomy 4:19, I'm reading from the ASV, and lest thou lift up thine eyes unto the heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, thou be drawn away and worship them and serve them, which Jehovah thy God has allotted unto all the people under the whole heaven. And when your eyes are lifted up to heaven and you see the sun, it's the same thing with a different translation. So there you have it. And am I coming in?
Yeah, just put it on screen, people. So, unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them. Interesting. I'm not sure what that's saying, Neil.
It's telling you not to, lest thou. In other words, don't.
You
Which
had
the
to throw a
Lord
little bit in.
thy God has divided unto all nations under whole heaven.
Okay.
Another translation says, don't be seduced. And when you look up into the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars, all the forces of heaven, don't be seduced into worshiping them. Come on, we know people worship the sun. We know they worship the moon. It's not an uncommon thing.
Well, I know that the... Sorry. I was just going to say, I know that the Celts and the ancient Japanese, they were sometimes called as sun worshippers, but they weren't worshipping the sun. They saw the sun as the biggest representation of God.
Exactly.
So that's why.
That's the same for the Jews. So if you look at really old, I think it's the Uncut synagogues, a lot of the old stuff will have the zodiac in, and Sol Invicta, a kind of chariot riding, looks a bit like Jesus on a chariot in the center with the sun. But even in Judaic there, it's you can't deny the sun. God created it, its power it brings and what it brings. But from my understanding, there's no worship of the sun. They're not deifying the thing itself. It is just the ultimate representation of the power, the love, and the life that God brings.
Now, God's talking about bringing sacrifices to it. Like I look at the sun and I marvel. I'm like, wow, God is awesome. Yeah, but I don't think that's worshiping the sun.
That's why, so when you see pictures of that, people would, is there sun worship going off there? No, but there's still recognition of its symbolic nature of God's power. So the same with Christianity and Islam as well. And I said same. I think if you look at like Akhenaten and Egyptian stuff, it's not God himself, but a recognition of the power of God, the ultimate.
Yeah, but what about when they bring the feast of the harvest and they put it and they offer it up to the sun? Then that's worshiping the sun.
I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Neil, but
you sure you're not thinking of the Wicker Man?
Whatever religion it is. Well, you're bringing offerings to worship to the sun.
Interpretation will always try and paganize it, won't it, into idolatry. But maybe, I think, let's say if you probably look and ask those individuals, they might not be making that a particular god per se. That's not to say if you look at Greco-Roman stuff. Yeah. So in this case, you've got the gods are signified in the stars. And again, I don't think they're there to worship. As I remember that it's like when Caesar isn't a god until he dies. And if he was a just Caesar and ruled well, he would then be given a star in the skies to be remembered by. They are then deified in their way, but they're little g gods, aren't they? They still sit under. But I don't, with maybe the exception of the wandering planets, the main Jupiter, Mars, etc. I don't think there's worship even by the Greco-Romans, just recognition.
And with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
home with me. What a lovely day.
And that's why Christians worship the representative of God on earth. Because, you know, to represent something is it's pretty significant.
Say that again, John.
To represent something.
No, before that. Who's the representative of God on earth?
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Who's making that buzzing noise? Is that John?
Oh, not again, John. I thought it went away. Just when they pulled you out, they pulled you back in.
I got to get a new phone.
Yeah, it's making a horrendous noise again.
By the way, another member of Goodfellas died, Paul Savino. They're dropping like flies.
Isn't that because they're like all really old?
Paul Sorvino was God in the Devil Carnival.
He was Big Paulie.
Just saying.
Now I got to turn my back on you. Which, by the way, speaking of the heavens, the other night I heard the loudest clap of thunder I've ever heard in my 57 years of being on this plane of Earth.
Okay.
Scared the shite out of me. Jumped
So
out of my seat.
Was it like from thunder?
Yeah, it was thunder. And then the rain, the trees were literally bending in half with the wind. I thought we were going to get hit with a tornado.
Okay, so you got like you got a giant lightning strike in the middle of a transition zone where it's still then, yeah, because then lightning strikes, or the sound of it, the thunder carries very far. As soon as the wind picks up, it dies down a bit, but yeah, that'll be loud.
It was, I mean, I've heard loud thunder, but this was extremely, I mean, holy shit. I jumped out of my seat.
Right, because the air was still probably when it happened.
But then I went right outside to see it. I love the storm. Just watch the thunder and lightning and the winds blow until, you know, if I see like cars flying, I'm getting flat.
Oh, I like it too. I like lightning.
They used to tell us in Alabama when the hurricane warnings come on to go in the bathroom because they have no basements. My wife would run in the bathroom with the kids, and I would go, "You really think this is going to save you?" Put them in the bathroom.
You want to hear some funny stories?
Absolutely, because it's dead silent.
Okay, last night there, I went on to, I was listening to Babes stream, and I saw Rumpus and Blue Marble in the chat, in the live chat, doing what they always do, talking a load of rubbish. Now, I left Blue Marble alone. I went straight to Rumpus. I asked him, I said, Rumpus, I said, how does Polaris appear to rise and fall on your model? Oh, no, I didn't. I started off by pointing out that he was saying something. Yeah, sorry, I started it wrong. Rumpus was talking about his test, this supposed canal test he has coming up, right? They're supposed to, he already knows how much Earth curve he's going to find, right? No, this rubbish. And I pointed out, I said, are you going to take angular size into account in the whole thing? He said, I'm going to take everything into account. I said, but angular size, you know, I went on from there saying, well, angular size can't exist on your globe. So if I take an angular size into account, then, it means it is not a globe. And he said, that's a lot of rubbish, and this perspective can exist on my globe, blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, well, what causes Polaris to appear to rise and fall? Is that perspective or Earth curve? And he came back with, it's Earth curve. And in the meantime, Blue Marble Science had gotten involved to bash me privately with Rumpus. Like the two of them were having their own little conversation about how stupid I was, talking about how perspective is not possible on a globe. Because the two of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because believe it or not, Rumpus often doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks he does, and he gives the impression that he understands something and knows something, but he doesn't. So I asked Blue Marble Science the same question, and he said Earth curve. So the two of them stated Earth curve. So from there, I said, so if it's Earth curve, then that's causing it, then it's not perspective. Because when I asked him, I said, you're right to say, I told Blue Marble Science, I said, that's correct. It is Earth curve, because it's not perspective, because all your maths are orthographic. I told Rumpus the same thing, that all your maths are orthographic. There is no perspective in your maths. And he started coming back at me with nonsense, and the same with Blue Marble Science. And I started bringing up the point of how there's no 7/6R added in to the globe Earth's Polaris rise and fall. Like I said, are ye all the measurements are from, even though you can't do this on a globe, all the measurements are from an horizon. So all the elevations are off of an horizon. So is that a geometric horizon or a refracted horizon? Because there's no 7/6R added into the claim of how Polaris appears to rise and fall on a globe. And Rumpus, right, this is how bad it got, right? I won't go into all of it because I'm going to get the screenshots of it. Rumpus got as far as trying to say that the horizon, he says perspective, he started up with nonsense first about how perspective is not part of Polaris' rise and fall because it's so far away, and he made up a complete load of nonsense. And then when I started holding him to task about the horizon, and there was no 7/6R, if the horizon is refracted, then all the elevation angles to Polaris are off of a refracted horizon. But yet that exact figure is what your globe is based on, orthographically. So I mean, the point being that no 7/6R was added. Yet all those elevation angles are exactly what the globe was based off of. So where is your 7/6R a horizon at that point?
That's why I said it wasn't canon, because the same thing applies back on Earth. I know you're eloquently describing how they can't apply 7/6R when acquiring a straight line to the horizon and a straight line to a celestial item to measure an angle. That's just the horizon. It's not refracted at 7/6R. It's a straight line. It's not a bent line. Nothing works in terms of their rhetoric. Perfect. Excellent, Brian. Same applies to Earth curve in general on the ground. If you refract the horizon, it's not proving that the horizon's physically blocking things. It's proving that the horizon moves with the weather. It's not proving it's Earth curve. Hence the up your sleeve, keep it for the worst case scenario, Andrew Thomas Young refracted non-geometric horizon, donkey dick. That's not put into the current canon. It's used up Rumpus's sleeve when needs be. Because it doesn't make sense. It moves the physical horizon you're trying to prove is Earth curve blocking stuff into a non-physical position that doesn't block stuff. So they can't have that in the current rhetoric. It's a contradiction in terms.
Well, it actually got really, really bizarre from both of them. I got different answers from both of them the further I went down this road. Because in current, now I didn't bring this point up, just for the audience from what you said, Nathan. In the current dip correction in celestial navigation is a 7/6R correction from a geometric globe's mathematical horizon to the actual horizon. And then they do height of eye correction. And that's the thing that the people I grew with have been equivocating between. But none of that was part of the elevation angles to Polaris. That was never ever part of the elevation angles to Polaris. Because if you add 7/6R into that changes all those elevation angles. And then their globe does not match Polaris orthographically. As you go down or up over the Earth curve, it won't match the observations to Polaris. There is no 7/6R in the Polaris observations, but within their model.
Why would there be?
So
It's an
yes, they
angle
could.
measurement to Polaris.
Yeah, well, they can't have angle measurements because it's perspective. But the point is that what they hijacked originally never had 7/6R added in for their horizon. But in celestial navigation, they start adding in 7/6R in the current celestial navigation. They add 7/6R in, and they call that dip correction, and separated it from height of void correction, as opposed to the two being the same thing. But what I got out of Rumpus when I started pointing this out, because Rumpus caught on fast what I was talking about, Rumpus said the elevation to Polaris never references the horizon. That's what he said.
Elevation from what? The horizon, you dumb idiot.
Yeah. And when I held Blue Marble Science to task on the globe maths, the orthographic globe maths, he went as far as saying globe maths don't exist. That there was no globe. I said, no, there's a specific set of maths that are connected to your globe. That's where they're at. They're willing to just deny that I said to him, what have you been referring to then for your measurements and your calculations for the past 6-7 years?
You should have called him a heretic, Brian. He's a heretic.
Wait,
that's what they are.
Somebody said globe maths don't exist? What?
Yeah, Blue Marble Science said that to me in Bev's chat.
Is that the same math
Hold on, who is it the first to say it?
The geometric horizon existed?
Yeah, it's a denial of the very first premise of a globe claim. Yeah, this is why, and I've been saying it for a while, I can't remember who it is to credit them, but they put out a video of Dave, Professor Dave, not Professor Dave, Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel, with him sharing his pain about how we've got to be stopped, and literally descending into the level of Hitler to say that we should be stopped. There's nothing that should be put in our way to stop these flat earthers. It's like, oh, right, Dave, share your pain. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was Jim Bob's video.
Jim Bob,
that.
right, that's right. What's the full channel name?
Made by Jim Bob.
Made by Jim Bob. Shout out to you. Excellent catch. My comment underneath was, yeah, first and foremost, share your pain, Dave. But secondly, that's why you're stuck here with us. You're just as dangerous as we are. That's why they bunged you in the same pond. Now, in the same very clip, he's pondering why he's here and how he's got here and doesn't really understand it. Where's here? Yeah, trapped in here with us. Dave, that's where you are. You don't know why or how you've got here, but that's where you are. Trapped here with us. Why? Because you're just as dangerous as us. And when Blue Marble Science gives us a perfectly comparable example by saying there is no curve maths. Well, why? Because it's failed miserably, and we've showed it to fail miserably. Showed that you need a flat earth to get the angles. Or you'll deny that the angle comes from the horizon when it's a measurement using the horizon, when it fails on a globe. Yeah, that makes them just as dangerous as us to your average normie who doesn't realise it's in a sun-worshipping religion.
So are they heretics if they deny the math?
Of course. I thought heresy goes without saying. I thought everyone picked up that this is heresy without even, me having to mention it, Neil. Yeah, it couldn't be more heretical in that regard. They're denying the very premise of the Earth curve maths, proving that the horizon blocks boats and buildings. Yeah, that's definitely heresy. But that's why they're trapped here with us. Because to have somebody saying, yeah, I'm a globe believer, there isn't any Earth curve. Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve. That, to a normie, is not something they need to be hearing. So chuck them in here with us. Dave and Blue Marble.
Are you saying we're...
Go on.
So are you saying they're stuck with us in the train station in the Matrix?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't describe it as the Matrix train station. My analogy is that the hill is the top of the hill is the normies walking around on the plateau. And if you get too close to the edge being finding out that there's a flat earth beneath your feet, you fall down the hill. Now, as you're falling down the hill and confusion sets in, you get to the bottom and we all go, whoa, dust ourselves off and go, wow, look how beautiful it all is. Man, there's no answers down here. But wow, a world of possibility. Let's go. And then we suddenly find we've been confronted by a load of trolls that go, no, we need to scramble back up the hill and believe that it's a globe. You're like, well, why are you down here with us then? Well, because we say there is no drift, and we say the earth maths should be denied, and we say there is no curvature, and no one claims there is. But we still believe in a globe. We've got to get back up that hill, and you better be coming with us You're evil. Like, hold on, we're both at the bottom of the same hill. I just don't want to scramble back up.
They feel it's their civic responsibility to stop others from falling into the same trap they did.
Yeah, they want to get back up to the top and put a bigger fence up. Exactly, John.
Blue Marble followed up what he said to me with, "It's just maths." That's what he said to me.
So he said there's no
by saying
math,
there's no
but it's just math?
Yeah, so that's anything. You know, that's not specific to anything. It's just maths. But he's right, it is just maths. But it's a specific set of maths.
Yeah, Proto's been saying similar things. He's been saying in the comment section, oh, it's just an imaginary line. Like, yeah, but the baseline is derived from the horizontal plane you're standing on. But you want to call that imaginary? Just maths and imagination when describing a measurement of a baseline to find your way and not die at sea. But it's all imaginary, therefore doesn't prove anything. That's his current tact. And I'm like, I just put little smiley faces and rolling around the floor laughing faces and winky kissy faces to him when he does it, because I find it extremely amusing. A bit like Rumpus descending it into, well, we could be a brain in a jar, as soon as he fails miserably. Like, yeah, you loser.
Yeah, well, the globe is imagination.
Yeah, it's kind of a concession. All right, so these measurements aren't going to be proving a sphere then, it's all just imagination. No, you'd rather just take the draw. Yeah, because we've won. Scrambling for a draw. Doesn't prove either. It's just imaginary lines we're making. Yeah, between a flat baseline, parallel with the position in the sky or on the ground, that you're going to acquire by way of measuring an angle to a celestial body by using a horizontal reference plane. But you want to say it's all imagination? Well, saved plenty of people's lives. People have got home because of it. On the ground they're navigating. It's just not sphere-shaped.
What they want to say is it's all perspective.
We're losing what he's saying now. Your mic's got that bad. It's all perspective, I think I heard. Yeah, maybe that's the reason why they're having to relinquish the curve mathematics when they say it's all perspective, because it doesn't work within the curve maths that Earth asserts that it's got a geometric limitation called Earth curve at the horizon. In that respect, it physically doesn't work. So therefore, well, it's all perspective. The Earth curve maths aren't, they're nothing real. It's got to deny their own curve maths. It is quite amusing.
I say it's quite over, and it's been over for a while. They just don't know it yet. Well, they do know it.
Well, some of them are coming to the conclusion and then questioning why they're here. Which is like us 6 years ago. You can have a bit of empathy, but as they're so hateful, you're like, yeah, I'll just rub your nose in it. Yeah, you're stuck here with us, away from the normal people. Because you're not normal either, are you? You're just some weirdo that doesn't believe in the globe. You just don't believe in it, but tell yourself you do.
I do feel bad for them. It must hurt.
When did you first notice that insight you just said?
Who are you asking?
You.
What insight?
They don't believe in the globe. They're just here stuck with us. What was the turning point for you?
Because they are. When I was originally complaining that the search results came up with them, you're like, yeah, but those search results are searching for a niche subject matter that somebody's already going to be on the path to the metaphorical bottom of the hill when they type them in. Now, the fact that the pool of results that come up doesn't include us from the pool doesn't alter that it's all the same pool that the results come from. Well, that suddenly spans into, well, hold on, if you're only pooling from one set of results, and that's what the guy who's on that path gets presented with, that's us. That's all us together. It doesn't matter that we don't come very high in the results. That's one pool of results, isn't it?
Are you saying we're all in this together, Nathan? Us and Rumpus and Blue Marble?
Yes, yeah, very much so. But moreover, away from everybody else. Now, it might have been that initially we, the flat earthers, were privileged enough to have our information being disseminated by algorithmic selection to the general populace of YouTube searchers. And it was assisted by, oh, this is getting popular, so we better promote it even more. Now, once that was taken away, you're left with a pool of people who are talking about this very subject, including, but not limited to, anti-flat earthers, concavers, etc. Well, that's still just going to be the pool of results that gets presented. Now, in their mind, because they don't have a Wikipedia stamp underneath saying they're wrong, they're right. But they're not. They're segregated away from the rest of society. They're not promoted to them. Hence, you have Professor Dave saying, I don't know why I'm here, I don't know how I've got here, but flat earthers must be stopped at all costs. Yeah, okay. With what? Sky vacuums? Denials of second laws of thermodynamics? Bouncy balls in a fish tank? That's what we've got from them. That's not what we get in the general Western world rhetoric. They get an adherence to, yeah, Earth's turning underneath the stars, yeah, 15 degrees an hour drift, yeah, Earth curve at the horizon, yeah, boats fall over it. That's what normies think. These people here tell us that the Earth curve isn't the horizon. They're not normies, are they? Well, that's dangerous. Got to be kept away from the normies.
Yeah, well, when someone who's been in this arena for years now and is one of the most well known on our opposing side turns around and tells you that the globe maps doesn't exist or don't exist after referring to those specific maps for 6 or 7 years, I mean, that person can't be out in the public.
Just standing on a beach with some normal person and just pointing at the horizon and saying, that's not Earth curve.
But you know, wait. So what Brian said, it's like I don't. There's two ways to looking at that, and I generally take the stance of people shouldn't be so dumb. So glad that I had the opportunity not to be so dumb. You know. I mean, because look at how ridiculous the conversation is. So at this point, yeah, it's like, fam, you got us pointed out if you are so lucky to come across someone like us, and you're still a glober, well, you deserve it. As a matter of fact, you deserve it because it's what you want at that point.
Sort of like Timmy Clown. Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve while showing pictures of the horizon labeled Earth curve. That's what Blue Marble's doing, basically.
Yeah, Rumpus stating that the horizon is never referred to when determining the elevation of Polaris. I mean, that is the absolute backbone of his model. That's where it came from. That's where his radius came from. That's where everything came from. Polaris' elevation above the horizon. Now, although that can't be done on our globe, it can only be done on a horizontal plane. An Earth with a horizontal baseline, a flat Earth, can't be done on a globe. The point is that the claim comes from that. To deny that the horizon is being referred to is a complete denial of the reality he's trying to promote for the past 7 years.
Heretic! Burn him at the stake!
So yeah, it's going to be a while before our anti-flat Earth opponents, who are also segregated from new normie society, realise what's happened to them and why they're here. And I think the first of them, I hate giving credit to him, but is Katz. Katz has spotted this and is now, decided to try and in some way detach himself from the pool that I'm describing. Yeah, he's relinquished 2 of his channels to other non-prominent anti-flat earthers, and they moved on with a different channel that's got a different focus. Well, that's the only way you can try and move yourself away from this subject in this regard. If I'm talking about YouTube pools, well, more, good on him, good for you. That's a start. I mean, it won't help him. That's why I detail how and why it won't help him when it comes from the back of his mind to the front of his mind for whatever reason. The sleepless nights will continue, and he may be able to suppress them. Now, that can only come after a realisation that you're trapped in some pool with us. How the hell do you get away from that? Well, not by continually attacking us based on rhetoric that you make up about the globe that doesn't comport with the globe's actual claims. That's never going to succeed. For example, Conspiracy Cat saying, I'll have to give you a flat earth to make this example. It is my belief that at that point he recognised the necessity for a flat plane, and then slowly started to detach himself from the subject matter on YouTube. That's the only route you've got. Now I'm here to stay. The fact that there's a profitable period for anti-flat earthers to make the most out of their use of this pool, well, that will be limited also. I see this as an evergreen subject. They just want to see the end of us. That's their motivation. It's more often than not higher up their list of motivations than being a successful YouTuber.
Now, I give him credit because he realized he cannot win this fight. See you later.
Yeah. If you've got to tell your audience that you have to concede Earth is flat in order to make your example, I'll give you a flat Earth in this particular instance. That's what Cats did. Right, why? Because you have to. Because that's how it works. That's what we're pointing out to your current, still around, in this pool, anti-flat earthers who don't comport with the globe's claims.
Mick West was the first to go. As soon as the Black Swan came out, Mick West disappeared. Now, he wasn't always like a permanent figure on the circuit, but he was around. But as soon as, that's 2.5 years ago now, over 2.5 years, and Mick West, gone. Conspiracy Cats must have took the nod from Mick because, the two of them were always fairly level-headed, let's be honest, weren't they? If you thought, you could actually, because I know for certain I had a conversation with Conspiracy Cats. You can have a normal conversation with them. And I had some interaction with Mick West, and it was possible to have some kind of normal conversation. I don't think that's possible with some of the rest of the people we deal with.
But Mick West came over to 24/7 and did the ultimate nosedive of douchebaggery and just, being the absolute anti-flat earther at that point. So, I don't know. That was my experience of him.
Well, sometimes you think you can win the fight again, Eli, and you jump back in the ring. You feel your oath and you think you can win the fight again. Maybe that's what he did.
Maybe. So, and also, it's funny that they always say, it's this formula that we use to determine the distance to the horizon is not used to actually locate it visibly off of the water because of refraction, specifically because it's over water. When specifically, I've seen in one of these calculators and in other places where it says, yada, 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 that's why doing observations over water are favorable. And then they give you the formula. Contrary to what the people who say, you can't use the formula if you're trying to use it over water. It's ridiculous. So you have a belief it's dogmatic and there's no way to falsify it whatsoever is what you're saying? I'm not being dogmatic. I'm just saying what can't be done. What can be done then? How do I know firsthand that the Earth is a globe? How?
Because the horizon will block boats and buildings at a set distance, 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, unless it doesn't. Then it's refracted. Simple.
Nathan, I think that hold on 1 second. I think Conspiracy Cats also, when he had that little thing with Tommy, I think he's doing a towel there. He couldn't get past Tommy.
What, being asked how you have gas pressure without a container 25 times?
Yes. I think that was it. He knew it.
Yeah, dodging the question with Tommy. And I'm not saying Tommy's stupid, but Tommy will admit he's not heavily educated. He's a boxer. But he's smart enough to outsmart Cats, by asking how you have gas pressure without a container and watching him dance around that question for about half an hour straight, saying, I'll come back to it. I will come back to it. And then him going, no, I'm not going to let you off the hook. And that's all Tommy did. Had him up against the ropes and pummeled the living crap out of him. Now, in terms of intellectual superiority, Cats has got the edge over Tommy. Tommy still whipped his ass just by knowing that you can't have a sky vacuum. It's nonsense. That's all he needed to know. And he beat Cats.
Yeah,
I have a correction.
I just want to say, Katz is a
I
lot more Go on, I'll go. Kat, take one.
have a correction to the 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Even if the horizon did follow that formula, you still need a flat plane to acquire angles. So their reasoning is flawed from the beginning. They'll never get there.
Absolutely. And it's even in all the curve maths when they show you the horizontal baseline and call it ground level. And it's devoid of the dingleberry earth dangling beneath. It's a horizontal plane. It's required to make the globe earth assertion. Hence, we aren't suppressed to the point of us being able to really complain about it, because part of the globe earth claim requires a flat plane. It's part of the rhetoric. They need it. They need us. Why? Well, because Earth is flat. So to make a heliocentric claim about it not being flat, being sphere-shaped, if your measurements are coming from a flat plane, at some stage, you need a flat plane. I think that's the only reason we're still here. Like slitting your own throat, getting rid of us, basically, isn't it?
Well, you can't hide certain facts anymore, and that's the problem. We've uncovered certain things. There's been too many times that what we've uncovered have been said. You know, people now know that, you know, are starting to know more and more that the horizon is not our curve. Every day there's new people that are finding that out. And that changes everything.
As I say, evergreen subject. So long as the Western world are under the impression that the flat Earth required to make their sphere model means that the flat Earth doesn't exist, we'll be here pointing out that the globe models used a flat plane to make you believe the Earth's sphere when it isn't.
It has to be the weirdest flat Earth religion that I've ever seen.
Unless you look at Scientology, which is an offshoot of the flat Earth required heliocentric model. But technically it's the same thing, so yes. Heliocentrism and Scientology are essentially the same thing. Just with a bit of an expansion on aliens. That's it. Maybe that's something we should harp on about a bit more, because people really do understand how to ridicule Scientology in the general Western world, not appreciating that Scientology is entirely based on heliocentrism. Well, I'm glad that developed into a really good conversation. I'm glad I brought it up.
Well, it's a bit hypocritical to attack Scientology if you're a heliocentrist.
Yes, that's my point. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't develop a decent conversation, so...
Can I change the subject?
You can.
Slightly?
I hope you do.
Yeah. As you know, the other night I was on Friday night, I went to bed. I went to try Dickens server to give some clarity to what was going on between John and Ruhif, because there was a lot of people that didn't understand. They actually thought that John had actually conceded to doing the fix, which he hadn't, which Bev had the audio from Ruhif admitting that he had never conceded to it prior to the debate. So we just point, not that people were thinking that John was a liar, it's just that there was confusion, because the ballers were confusing. The ballers either weren't given the facts and saying nothing, or they were giving incorrect information. So there was people on the server who didn't know what actually had happened, because they were like I was there. It's like, if you agree to the fix, you have to do the fix. But John didn't agree to it. So I just wanted to clear that up. And also, I did a small presentation on basics of celestial navigation. Because I know there's some people over there, like SE Montreal, I think Dave Kia, who have an interest in the argument. And we're starting to learn about it. Now, we don't know whether that will continue. But one of the members of the panel over there, a guy called Saragaki, he was coming at like, you know, he's challenging me on it at the end. At this point, I was fairly frustrated because I had been arguing a bit with Bev, but I'd been arguing with Brenda and Rumpus coming in as well, just jumping in with nonsense, which I'll go into their nonsense in a while, but if we have time. But this lad Saragaki, he pointed out that if the angle to the celestial body stayed the same, but the hypotenuse, right, but the celestial body happened to be in a different position or lower, so the hypotenuse was shorter, then that would debunk the distances. But I was kind of dumbfounded when he said that to me, because it's like, no, you're not getting. I was like, no, you're missing the point, because he was coming at it from a purely terrestrial geometry, trigonometry point of view, and he was saying he understood, but there was one point, and this is why I'm not attacking the man, because he basically was just asking a question, because he was skeptical about the whole thing, right? Like a lot of the people on the Try Thinking server are skeptical about the celestial navigation argument. And where he went wrong, for anyone who may hear this and may have heard that, is what he didn't understand is the hypotenuse length can never affect the length of the adjacent. Because the length of the adjacent, it's the length of, you take an angle to a celestial body. That is your elevation angle. First you establish 90. Then you take your angle to then you establish your angle to the celestial body. Then you minus that from 90, and that will give you your zenith angle. You multiply that by 60, and that gives you your co-altitude distance, which is in minutes of degree. And that is then transferred from minutes of degree across the sky into nautical miles along the surface of Earth, along a pre-assumed horizontal baseline. And once you have that, that is your adjacent length. That is the distance from the observer to the GP. That would be the radius line for your first circle, or your circle of equal altitude. And your hypotenuse length, if you want to see this orthographically, if you view it orthographically, is determined by the length of the adjacent. So you can't change the hypotenuse length, because that's following the length of the adjacent. So it doesn't work. Like I have the wrong word for it in my head. The attack, I'm going to use the word attack, it's not correct, that he had on it. He attacked me on with it. What he attacked me with on the subject is incorrect, because the hypotenuse length is based off of the length of the adjacent. Now, it might be different if you're using it under different circumstances and not using the celestial bodies, right? That changes, that might change the hypotenuse length, which would make your adjacent length incorrect. But in celestial navigation, that is not how trigonometry is used. Your adjacent length determines your hypotenuse length. So the two can never be out of whack. And the adjacent length comes from that is your zenith distance, which comes from your zenith angle being multiplied by 60. I think that Bev thought that what this lad Saragaki was saying was the end of the argument. And he did. I was at that stage. I was dumbfounded. Like I was like, because the man was saying he understood what I talked about previously. He listened to all of what I was saying, but then he said this, which I was like, well, it just is what it is. Like, didn't know what to say at the time. I was like, because this argument made no sense to me. It's like, no, because the adjacent length determines the hypotenuse length. That was going on in my head. I couldn't understand where he was coming from. But no, for anyone who's listening, no, the hypotenuse length is determined by the adjacent length. This can't be debunked. As I said to that man, Saragaki, this has been used for a couple of 100 years successfully. It's not something that's just a ruse. You know what I mean? It's not a farce. It's not a ruse. It's not a trick. It really works. The only trick is when they try to add in heliocentrism into it. But other than that, like, Bev went against it completely, as I suspected he would. Bev wasn't really interested, but he argued a bit with me about it. And of course, Rumpus and Brenda came in, getting everything wrong. Rumpus tried to claim that you would you determine the height of the star above a flat Earth by the internal angles and the length of the sides, and that gives you the height of the star. He started this rubbish. A lot of rubbish. You can't do it. It can't be done. Because changing your angle will always change the height, your supposed height of your star. It's a load of rubbish. And Brenda then came in as if, the usual stuff, being allowed to come in and attack, and she was saying, I didn't know what I was talking about. And then when I told them about how from an airplane, right above at the zenith of a person who's taking an angle from the beach or from a boat, that the angle at the same time, if they take the same angle, take an angle to the same star at the same time, and they're at the same zenith, the both of them will get the exact same angle. And Brendan Rumpus didn't know what the hell I was talking about. There's your experts. But I don't know if Bev even got that part. But hopefully there's more people but more clarity on the argument over there now. Because what Ruhif and them wanted, and they do want, is for Bev and everyone on the Try Thinking server to demonise this argument. And that way they don't have to deal with Bev and them concerning this argument. That never has to happen. They only have to deal with us. Sorry, go on.
You know what I think? What I think is there's a valuable lesson to be learned here. One is not to look at things as sides, although it is beneficial to have someone who understands your point and kind of champions that with you. That's us here. Just so happen to be lucky. But other than for, debate purposes like this show, I don't think it's conducive to talk to people who won't listen. Like, what's the point? If you enter a chamber full of people who won't listen, what's the point?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't think Ben was going to go for it anyway because he braced against it so much in the past. So I wasn't really surprised that Ben didn't go for it. But I just wanted to point out where was something that they might have thought was a debunking of it, like that it wasn't, and it can't be, and point out how geometrically it can't be. It's just yes. Like there was people over there who were interested in knowing the truth and were interested in clarity, and so there was a lot of people on the server who, like, I'm sure I got a lot of people saying thanks for coming over, and I'm sure some of them got some clarity out of it. Do you know what I mean? So,
right, yeah.
I don't expect Bev. Bev is never going. I don't think Bev is ever going to side with the elevation angle or the argument, the celestial navigation argument.
It's not even an argument. That's the problem. The problem is it's not an argument. It's just what is. And then there's us citing literature and practical usage. That's literally all we're doing. It's not an argument.
Eli, you at a party? You at a rave? Woo!
No, I'm not
a rave for you.
Eli hit the nail on the head, though. It's not a debate.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say, but I got into the party. There is no
debate. Good music.
But it is nice to hear why, the well's being poisoned against Bev, because they don't want to have to deal with it, basically. And I think I agree with your assessment. That's basically it, isn't it? If you can say, it's inconsequential, it's not a good argument, and your opponent buys it, then you haven't got to ever argue it with them.
Yeah, I mean,
they bring that up. They say even Bev doesn't believe that nonsense with elevation angles. Like, that's supposed to be the end all.
Right. So when they position it, they even position Bev versus celestial navigation. I love it.
Correct.
Yeah, because Bev has held them. Like, I mean, I'll give Bev his dues at all times. Right? When someone does something good, I don't. Even if I'm arguing with the person or something, I still wouldn't take it away from them. Bev has held them to task on surveying and just reality for several years now, and they hate him, right, for doing this. He's pointed out where they don't ever measure Earth curve in reality. Nobody does this. He pointed out where Rise Over Run is just, a gradient of a slope. It doesn't measure any Earth curve. He's holding them to task on this for years. So they certainly didn't want Bev getting to grips with this argument, because then you have Bev and everyone else who's on the server with him following, like they may not be over here arguing, but they'll be there arguing it. And then you have more than us to deal with. You have Bev and all them to deal with. But it's after working where Bev himself doesn't think it's a good argument. And so consequently, they don't have to do much, to stop Bev from getting involved in it, because he doesn't want that. Because Bev says you can do F all with an argument. You can do F all with an angle, which I held him to task on. It's like, that's a completely paradoxical statement. With an angle, you can do all kinds of things. It's a complete opposite. There's not much you can't do with an angle if you're talking about, the measurement of and the use of it in the real and natural world. Everything uses angles: engineering, surveying, celestial navigation, aerospace, you name it. Go on, Either.
Yeah, like even if he would have said this instead, you can do F all with an elevation angle. Sure you can. You can devise a system, a coordinate system, which you use to navigate. Yeah. Salacious reasoning.
No, you can. It does. It has. It is.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
you might strike, by the way.
Your mic.
I talked over you because you're almost indecipherable.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, you use elevation angles to create the system that they use today to determine where things are, when things are. Like you wouldn't have an almanac, you wouldn't have anything if you couldn't do F all with elevation angles. Number one. Number two, I appreciate everybody in this argument, and I'm not here to be liked. I think I'm kind of a likable person. Some people don't think that. That's cool. But I don't care whose side is what and da-da-da-da-da. I would say this here if it were true. And the conversations that I have with Beth, I've determined that he reasons fallaciously. So, again, what can you expect?
Eli, if it wasn't for you, I would not be on G+. I love you.
Didn't we get on at the same time?
Yeah, but then you told me how to do it.
Oh, yeah, 'cause we were all having issues in the beginning, yeah.
Well, I don't understand why they're missing the biggest part of it. The globe purveyors claim elevation angles. Problem is, it can't work on the globe. That's right there. It's over. I mean, you don't have to get into it any more than that.
So you can't do fuck all with angles, except for when you're considering how it works on a globe. Like, what's the argument? I don't even get why he would say. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, you can do nothing with.
Hang on. No, just real quick, Brian. Yeah, they can't do anything.
No, Bev.
No, I know. Take what Bev says and just apply it to them. You can't do anything with it because you can't make it work on your globe.
That's correct.
Look at it that way.
That's what I want to hear. Do this stuff on a globe. Not the flat earth that you do it on. Do it on a globe.
One minor
The
correction.
only reason I'm
elevation angle is what's being used. So you can say, oh, you can't do anything with an angle. Oh, what kind of angle measurement are we talking about? Well, an elevation angle, which is used to find your way if you lose it in celestial navigation.
Yeah, so the only reason I guess I took the little dig or whatever is because the overarching point is only one point, because flat earthers, just like when I was on the Killer Priest podcast, and I was like, oh, that's a regular question.
You can't hear you anymore.
My gosh,
Too
Eli,
bad.
your mic.
Can't hear you, Eli. Can't hear you.
Eli, you're moving around. You're moving around. Stay still.
I'm just standing still right now. It must have been that my mic was on my neck. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay. It's important. The most frustrating thing when talking to flat earthers is when they argue fallaciously, and then it's like, well, I should be able to express this to you because we've been doing this for a while and we're on the side of truth. Therefore, you wouldn't want to get to a conclusion with fallacious reasoning. I thought that was like a general standard. So
No. Let me just stop you right there. No. You're confusing flat earthers with reasonable people. Now, these two aren't synonymous. You might think they are, they're not.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, yeah, no, that's true. Like I said, when I was on the Killer Priest podcast, anybody watched when I was like, no, that's begging the question, or whatever other fallacy I brought up. It was like it didn't really connect the way it was supposed to. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's the key reason that we're here having this discussion is because somebody presupposed something rather than prove it.
Eli, when you broke down the begging the question, see, the only reason I understood it was because I heard Nathan on an interview. I think it was with Roxanne, and he broke down begging a question and all of that stuff. And the way he explained it, like I understood it like perfectly.
Well, that's good to hear.
Oh, you didn't hear me?
No, we heard you.
Did I drop out?
No, he said it's good to hear.
Nathan, can you go to Master B for one slide? I gotta get out of here in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I've covered this, you've covered this, Brian's covered this. Let's cover it again. The horizon. Standing on the Earth's surface, our vision is bounded by the circumference of a small circle indicated by the apparent junction of land or water with sky. This is the visible horizon, and our range of vision is greater or less according to the height at which we stand. Not talking about Earth curve, not talking about falling away, it's just talking about being higher, you see more, being low to the ground, you see less, that's all. From such a standpoint, only a small part of the terrestrial hemisphere is visible, and always more than a hemisphere of the heavens. Sensible horizon. Buckle your seatbelts. The circle which bounds the horizontal plane extending from the spot where the observer stands is the sensible horizon. And this plane, which is tangential to the Earth's surface, is perpendicular to the radius of the Earth, which extends from the center of the observer station. The plane of the sensible horizon may also be conceived as that which sensibly coincides with the surface of a fluid at rest. The reduction of an astronomical observation due to the difference between the visible and sensible horizon is called dip. Fluid at rest gives me my horizontal? I thought they said water curves.
I like that.
What
Benji's
they're
Horizontal's
doing,
failing on its arse more and more recently.
what they're doing is they're imagining a plumb line when they're seeing the sextant through their eyes to get a horizontal. But the navigator's never pointing the sextant horizontal over the horizontal sea surface. He's pointing it at the horizon, which gives him too great of an angle. So the depression angle happens there. It's more than 90. It's obtuse. So he has to bring his eye down to sea level to get what they're trying to say the sensible horizon gives you if you had a plumb line meeting a horizontal at your eye line. But what's great is that it's imaginary because no one on the boat hangs a plumb line to get their sensible first. They just aim at the horizon with too great of an angle, which is the depression, tip of the depression angle. They fix that, and guess what? It's like fluid at rest is going to give you a horizontal eye line. Well, what fluid is at rest? What's he talking about?
Yeah, look,
I'll catch you guys tomorrow. There's more
hang
on
on
this.
before
See
you
you later,
go. Thanks.
10th.
This is something.
See you later.
Go. I have to go.
This is. Just give it 5 minutes. Can you give it 5?
Oh, I have a call in 2.
Okay, go. You may as well
I'll
go.
catch you
may as well
mañana.
go. Go on.
Thanks, Dan.
I
See you
want to
later.
take care.
You got it.
Okay, I have a new killer argument. I'll do a presentation on this during the week. I might need Adam's help a little bit, just to clarify a few things. On the globe, there is a distance, right, between their North Pole to their equator along the curve, along any of the longitude lines, of 6,210 or whatever miles. Now that's 5,400 nautical miles. From their South Pole to their equator, it's exactly the same. So they have, from their North Pole, 5,400 nautical miles of a distance, although it can't be nautical miles because it's not horizontal, but we'll call it that for ease of explanation. From their North Pole to the equator, and the same from their South Pole to the equator. Now, a navigator can go out into the world, into the oceans, and can take sightings to 3 different stars, 3 different celestial bodies that would be at basically 0. Because those celestial bodies will be slightly refracted, will be affected by what they call celestial refraction. Besides whether it is actual light refracting, causing it, whatever, it doesn't matter. We just, for ease of explanation, we'll go with that for the moment. So it is possible for me, if I'm a navigator, to use a sextant and get 3 elevation angles that will, all 3 of them will have a horizontal baseline of 5,400 nautical miles from my position to the GP of those 3 stars. That means that those diameters will be 10,800 nautical miles. And if you multiply all that then by, if you turn those into 3 circles of equal altitude, you'll have 101 over 101, I think it's 101,700 and something, 101,700 and something nautical miles altogether. So you're covering all that. Let's just say that's the full circumferences. If you add the 3 circumferences together, that's what it will be, if I remember. Or is it? No, sorry, it'll be. I think it is 101 over 101,000 nautical miles. Now, if you look at how much surface area is on a globe, right? It's what is it? It's 900 and something million or something square miles. Now, as Adam pointed out, square miles, how do they work on a globe? But the point I'm making is, this is possible to do in celestial navigation and be used, and with more land and surface area to the Earth after this. You can create 3 circles of equal altitude that will all be will all have radii of 5,400 nautical miles. Now, besides where those 3 circles will intersect, let's just say you can take it. It's 1/5 of it might be where the intersection point is. That means there's 4/5 left. The point I'm making is, on a globe Earth, the distance covered in area from for just 1 circle of equal altitude would be greater in area than all of their, let's say, the north of their equator or south of their equator. So on the globe Earth, technically, they don't have the surface area to handle even 2 circles of equal altitude at full maximum size. But yet, in reality, we can have 3 with more surface area to spare. So it's impossible for the Earth to be a globe and have that surface area because we can measure and use greater surface areas. Even if you put all that land onto the globe, the land from even 2 circles of equal altitude, even if you try and wrap it around the globe, it will overlap itself. Because the surface area is greater, even for 2 of them. And 3 of them is way greater. And in reality, we have more surface area than 3 circles of equal altitude at maximum size. So it completely debunks the globe, completely. Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
It's impossible to happen.
It's over again. It's over again.
Well, I'm going to do a small presentation on it during the week on the live show. I'm going to look for Adam's help a little bit. Just want to get things right mathematically. But it's impossible for even the surface area of 2 circles of equal altitude to even work on a globe. Because if you take the distances from the longitude lines from their North Pole to the equator, and you flatten that out, then that's greater in area. That whole thing becomes greater in area than the north of their equator, and the same south of the equator. So 2 circles of equal altitude would even overlap each other at maximum size. And they don't even have to be at maximum size to debunk the globe. They could even be smaller than maximum size and still be way bigger than what the globe can handle. So this hopefully will cause some rage.
Brian, are you saying that the diameter of the circle of equal altitudes is greater than the radius of Earth, or their presupposed radius of Earth?
Yeah, because the reason they have to have a 21,600 nautical mile circumference to their equator or their polar circumference is because they have to pull everything in. But 1 circle of equal altitude is greater in surface area, than the whole north of their globe, or south. So how can they handle even 2, never mind 3, at maximum, or even close to maximum size? There's more area being used and measured and navigated on, in reality, than is on their globe. Do you understand, John? And I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yeah. That's funny.
Well, it's a checkmate, isn't it? There's no way out of that. You can't. There's no way out.
Are they going to move the circle to the other side of their globe and say that everything but except what's in that smaller circle is the circle?
But even if you do what they do, the maximum size of a circle of equal altitude, the maximum size of the radius is 5,400 nautical miles. So even if you do what they do, they can only handle, which is curve the radii, right? And make the circle smaller, because that's what they do when they put a circle of equal altitude onto their globe. Even if you do what they do, they can only put 2 circles of equal altitude at maximum size onto their globe. And that's by curving the radii and coming up with fantasy. But they can never put a third on, even within that craziness. Even within their own craziness, a third there's nowhere for it to go. 2 is the maximum. But in reality, the 2 that we measure will have a much greater circumference and surface area than than their north and south, than the equator from their equator to their poles. Will never match in the surface area even just 2 circles of equal altitude of maximum size. Never mind 3. And even if you do what they do, and like Ruif does, it curves the radius like a maniac. That doesn't mean anything, because you can't fit a third one then. And they do use 3 in reality. They can use 3. They can use 4. There's no way out of this. I want to hear what Nathan has to say
the
about it as
curve.
well. Go on, John. Everyone.
I was gonna say it needs to be streamlined a little bit because I'm not exactly sure I am comprehending what you're saying. I think I do, but I need to think on it a little bit more. But I think you might be onto something. But I mean, that's like you said, accepting that a radius could bend. That's the first step you got to take in it, which is crazy.
No.
So,
You don't have to go down that road. I'm just saying, if they go down that road, which they will try to do, they will only be able to fit 2 circles of equal altitude at maximum size at that point. They won't even be able to fit a small third circle. That's the problem. They'll never be able to fit reality onto their globe because their globe doesn't have enough surface area. That's the problem they have. Reality will always, in reality, celestial navigation will always, using a sextant, have always navigated an Earth that has to be way, way huger in area, just a square mile area, than the globe. Circles of equal altitude prove that.
Nice.
But you know, another thing was 10th was going over the different horizons. You know, I think he said the sensible is going 90 from your eye, from your vertical, and then what was the other horizon? The visible horizon, which in the depiction was a flat plane that cut the sphere in half, and the difference between the two is where you find Earth curve. So you need 2 flat planes to describe Earth curve. It's funny.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah, it is funny.
The differential between 2 flat planes is your Earth curve. Is what.
So wait a second. To make a ball, I need 2 straight lines. Okay, great.
2 flat planes.
You need the flat plane that creates the horizon, and then you need the flat plane that is your eye line, and then you can draw a line from your eye to the horizon of the plane you're standing on and reify that into a sphere.
What you're doing is drawing a depression angle, which will have a horizontal baseline. I know. That's basically what you're doing, isn't it? It will have a horizontal roof that will parallel a horizontal baseline.
But it's not even dealing with the sky at that point. You know, you're just dealing with your eye line as compared to the flat plane you're standing on, and the differential between the two. That's like, where do you get curve in that? It's 3 straight lines.
Well, you know the way they have to put in the caveat where, excuse me, where when it comes to Al-Biruni and Eratosthenes, in the Wikipedia pages, I think is where it's found, but I'm pretty sure it's other places as well, where officially these 2 people were claimed to have referred to the maths of Pythagoras, right? Now, they wanted to give you the impression that Pythagoras, whether it's true or not, was a crazy sphere lover, right? So they want to give you the impression that before even any of these people, these 2 men, supposedly measured the radius of a globe, which they never did, before any of that, there was another man who knew it was a globe without actually measuring it many years ago, back in Greece or whatever, right? Samos, Greece. Way before, hundreds of years before BC, right? So what they're doing is they're passing the buck. If Eratosthenes measured the supposed radius of the globe, which we know he didn't, he measured a flat plane, then why would Al-Biruni need to do it? And why would any of them need to be? Why would any reader of what they did ever need to be referred back to Pythagoras, as these 2 men supposedly referred to the maths of Pythagoras? For Al-Biruni, that's true. Because Pythagoras, what is he actually most famous for? Is it spheres? No, the right angle triangle. The Pythagorean theorem, how to use the angles and the lengths of the sides to gain, that's what, like basically we got angular sides and distances from angular sides and actual sides based off angular sides. That's all comes from the Pythagorean theorem, Pythagorean theorem. So yeah, anything to do with right angle triangles in the world, it's all attributed to Pythagoras. So Al-Biruni had to definitely use his maths because he had to first use a right angle triangle to gain the height of the mountain he was going to go up on top of. Then he had to go up on top of it and use a depression angle, which is also using a horizontal baseline along the surface of the water, right, to the visible horizon. Just the horizon. There is no other horizon, just the horizon. So he used the maths of Pythagoras twice. He referred to them twice. Yeah, I totally agree. He used an elevation angle first time from down at the bottom of the mountain. Then he used a depression angle at the top of the mountain. Yes, but where's the curve in that? There isn't any. But Eratosthenes didn't. Eratosthenes used an elevation angle, and it was a calculation of a distance based off the zenith angle, just like in celestial navigation. But that's not really attributed to Pythagoras, even though the right angle triangle is part of it. He didn't use the internal angles or length of sides. Why did they always feel the need to pass the buck backwards into history until people get bored? And they just don't want to do research. Or well, someone hundreds and thousands of years ago must have measured it. Because if you look into what Eratosthenes did and Al-Biruni did, they didn't measure any radius of any globe. They measured something, all right, but it wasn't any curved surface. But if we pass the buck far enough back to this Pythagoras dude and claim that he loves spheres, then that gives the inference that, that he might have known, this genius might have already known it was a globe, even before any of these two other super geniuses. It is complete nonsense.
I thought somebody was getting ready to say something.
I don't think so. Why? Did you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to tie it back to what we were talking about earlier with the apparent nature and distance, because a lot of their argument relies on the people comprehending the word distance to mean physical. That way, when they talk about distance to the horizon, you automatically reify it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we went through on the live show, right?
Yeah, it's like a trick you play on yourself when you use certain words.
Yeah. Part of the magic
like
trick
spelling.
Part of the magic trick is that you reify the physical sphere into existence in your own mind. That said, there's plenty of contrasting stuff where they overtly just tell you that it is.
Right, but the most effective way for them to do it is to sneak it in quickly, right? Just a couple of words that just heavily inference the invocation of a presupposition, right? And then just slip past it, move on. That's like the most effective way to keep reconditioning people on these effects without them even realizing it. By just bringing up the train of thinking, the right words that are associated.
Oh, so you're saying words do have meaning, Owen? Oh, okay. Because some people think that the meaning of words is definitions is meaningless.
Right, but there's the associated conditioning is very effective for people. Often, when you learn stuff, the conditioning comes first before the cognitive oversight actually happens, if ever, right? First you memorize, then you understand. Well, a lot of people don't get to the understanding part, so they just memorize it. That's like a conditioning. That conditioning could be triggered by bringing up the associated words. The person that has that conditioning doesn't have to be aware of it.
The word Darwin's searching for is comprehension. They just require you to comprehend.
Yeah. Comprehend is a better word indeed than understand. Yeah.
Well, what's the name of the schools that we, if we do, put our children in? They're comprehensive schools. You get a comprehensive education, don't you?
That sounds great.
Oh yeah, it sounds wonderful.
The comprehend in this, the thing that allows you to comprehend, whether it's building a ball from two flat planes, whether it's Al-Biruni going up the mountain and calculating an R value through a measured dip angle, all of the things that allow you to comprehend their worldview is the reification of the horizon again into a leading edge of a sphere. That's what you have to comprehend to understand what they're telling you.
And denial of that comprehension makes you as dangerous as us flat earthers. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!